20th regularly scheduled meeting. Before we start the meeting, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by a pledge to our flag. Feel free to join us if you like. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We call to order the May 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the Sumner County School Board. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is adoption of the regular agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. King. Comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster and Mr. Evans with the second. Any comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes from the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes, and second. All right, got a second there. All right, any comments? Seeing none, all right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion and or action regarding the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 special called meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Recognition and hearing of delegation. Sorry, it looks like there's a typo on the agenda, Mr. Johnson. Pretty sure we're not going to recognize the special call meeting for May 13th. So I do have some individuals that would like to speak this evening.
We got Lieutenant Colonel Stone. Try refreshing the browser. See what it shows.
All right.
It should be Lieutenant Colonel Stone.
All right, now I got it. All right, thank you. First individual we're going to recognize is Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Stone of the Hendersonville High School MCJROTC. Mr. Stone?
Thanks for letting me speak here, sir. Like you said, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Stone. Sergeant Major Guards is here with me, but we're here.
Mr. Stone, if you don't mind, if you just head right over there, that way we can hear you as well. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, again, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Stone. That's Sergeant Major Garza. We're the Hendersonville High School ROTC instructors. We're here today just to show our appreciation for the Sumner County Schools Maintenance Department. If you know the old high school, the one with the dome, pretty much everybody recognizes the old high school. It's an old building. It requires a lot of work. And those guys have just bent over backwards for us over the last couple of years. They've absolutely transformed that place for us. And I don't think that Mr. Brown has turned down a single request that we've asked him. So simply put, we're just here to say thank you, and we appreciate the work that those guys do. They really do. They work around us all the time, and they've just done a fantastic job for us. So it says here, thank you, Sumner County School Maintenance Department from HHS Marine Corps Junior ROTC. I wish Mr. Brown could be here tonight, but he's still recovering, so we'll give it to Ms. Hayes if we could, and that's all there is to it. We just want to say thank you. So appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you
Come on down.
let
Huh?
Come on down, Ms. Hayes.
Good to see you.
Let me just say, in addition to the other great work that they do, they have, we'll talk a little bit later,
We had 44 kids from Sumner County join the United States Armed Forces this year. Hospital, including one going to West Point, one going to Air Force Academy, and a number of other kids across the county. You know, it's funny, I'd encourage you, if you go look at the video that the Flood made, it's great, but I think the funniest part is all these kids are headed off to basic, and those beautiful locks are going to about to be gone. But seriously, if you ever get a chance to see what our OTC program does for kids, you know, a lot of the kids will later not serve in the military, but what they learn, self-respect, discipline, community, a group that loves them, but not only loves them, but pushes them to be the very best. Whether that's physical fitness, whether that's taking care of others, whether it's learning how to be on a team, everything that they do is absolutely exemplary, and we are very honored to have them in Sumner County. So thank y'all. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, you. What an honor. We love this. Thank you.
All right, next we have Dr. Kim Germany, Teacher Innovation in Digital Education.
I get to celebrate Dr. Kim Germany with you all tonight. So she joined Sumner County this year from Bedford County with her 28 years of educational experience and chose us. So we are excited that she is here with her expertise. But what we want to celebrate her for is she received an honor that recognizes leadership, loyalty, and dedicated service to a board. So she serves on the Board of Visitors for the Office of Teaching and Learning at the University of Alabama. And tell them what you were. Go ahead. I know you want to. Roll Tide. So they honor her work there at the university. When did you go? About a month ago? Yes. Mm-hmm. So what that is she expands access to high quality education through online learning, continuing studies, workforce development, and innovating teaching strategies. And so they make an impact at the local level, at the state level, and then within the community there at Alabama University. So we're so proud of her. Beautiful award, and so thankful that she's here with us. Do you want to say anything?
I'm just going to say I'm happy to be a part of this community. They have really welcomed me and made me feel so at home, and I look forward to many years of being a part of this family and continuing the academic excellence that you guys already have in place. Thank you.
Dr. German. Chairman.
I forgot she authored a book too. It was just published like 2 weeks. Last week. Published author.
Thank you.
All right, continuing with our recognition and hearing of delegation, we've got public comments. I've got a list of individuals that signed up. So when I call your name, I apologize if I mispronounce it in advance. But you can correct me when you get up to the microphone and let us know what your name is and your address. And then you'll have 5 minutes to speak. So I'm going to start with Laurel Gallant.
You said it correctly, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, good evening. I am here not only on behalf of myself and my family, but the many special needs parents who can't easily attend meetings like this. There are many parents we've spoken to about these issues who can't get care for various reasons, but they have lots to say and their input is valuable. I moved here from Canada 3 years ago with my family. We are zoned in Sumner County schools, but when we arrived and I went to speak to the school about what my older son would need, I was frankly told, we know it's the law and we technically have to accommodate him, but we just can't. Realistically, there isn't enough staff or funding and too many kids enrolling as they move here. I was told that if he was okay with the homeschool situation he's already in since we moved here, he might as well stay there. As I was brand new to the area and didn't know any better, we did just that. He had been in public school since kindergarten and was now having to stay home because his disabilities made it too hard for the schools to provide for, along with everything else they already deal with. I've worked in schools. I'm a legal assistant, and I was a financial secretary for a middle school. I've also worked many years in law firms and even at the Court of Appeal of Alberta. I understand very well that the wheels of government turn slowly. I know there are processes to be followed, policies that need to be referenced, and purchasing decisions that are not made lightly. As Dr. Langford said last week, there's a problem when the pilot doesn't fit the airplane's standard measurements. Your airplane of older playgrounds was designed for the typical capable child. Unfortunately, the pilots attending Sumner County schools are often atypical and need extra assistance. As you know, in Tennessee, playground accessibility is primarily governed by the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, and its related standards. These regulations ensure that playgrounds are accessible to people with disabilities, including those who use wheelchairs. Basic ADA compliance for playgrounds includes features such as accessible routes, wheelchair ramps and transfer stations, barrier-free travel paths, shock-absorbing surfaces, etc. You've seen them all out there, you know what's possible. The ADA standards for accessible design outline specific requirements for accessibility in public areas, including playgrounds. ADA compliance is required by law in the U.S. on all public playgrounds, including parks, schools, and HOAs. However, ADA compliant playgrounds are not necessarily fully accessible to those with disabilities. Accessible playgrounds are a step above ADA compliant and are designed to be completely accessible by wheelchair. Since the ADA doesn't account for every type of barrier that may be present, especially for those in wheelchairs, it's important that playgrounds are made not just to be ADA compliant, but accessible or inclusive. Even if you know your playground is basically ADA compliant, you can further promote accessibility by adding components like wheelchair accessible swings or play structures with wheelchair ramps. An inclusive playground allows children with and without disabilities to engage in beneficial play together. This type of playground does not have to be a separate section for children with special needs. All of the equipment is designed to challenge children of all abilities. Inclusive playgrounds do not only offer access for children in wheelchairs, but also provide enrichment and sensory play for children with autism, sight impairments, etc. Inclusive play will enable all children to play together in one place, excluding no one from the fun. Playgrounds need to follow ADA standards, whether you're updating areas on your site or putting in all new equipment. But when you make your playground accessible or inclusive, instead of just ADA compliant, playground equipment can open a door of possibilities for children of all ages and physical abilities. By choosing to make your playgrounds accessible and inclusive instead of just meeting the minimum requirements, you can provide a space where all children can have fun and thrive. I'll bring you back to another thing that was said last week. There was mention of leaving a legacy, and I'd like you to seriously consider that. As a public school board, you have no choice in bringing your playgrounds and buildings up to ADA minimum standards to avoid liability. Multiple playgrounds in this system aren't that yet, and some have some safety concerns that everybody's working on. The choice in front of you today is simple. Do you want to do the bare minimum in bringing your properties up to ADA compliance and avoiding a lawsuit? Or do you want to leave a legacy? Knowing you did everything you could to ensure that Sumner County schools are the most inclusive and accessible properties in Tennessee would be the legacy of a lifetime, and it doesn't cost that much to make that happen. I understand that this won't be complete in the next 6 weeks, but you can absolutely make sure that the process has begun. As parents, we'll be monitoring the progress we made as we move through this situation. Sumner County Schools has an obligation to make this right one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Patrick?
Hi, I'm Jackie Patrick, 197 Meadow Lake Drive. I don't have anything written. That was eloquent, and I so appreciate everything you said. I only came to share just a couple of thoughts because they run through my head all the time, every single day, that we live in a situation where we have a child in our family with special needs. I didn't want to look at a paper. I wanted to look at your eyes. I wanted you to see that there's sincerity and hope. There's always hope right here in this room with these people. The only thing I really wanted to stress is I'm at a point where I can confidently say to you, time is of essence. Everybody sitting in this room, and especially if there are the grandparents here, know that there is a history with each one of you. When you were in school, you remember a special event, a special teacher, a special friend. There's always something that sticks with you. And that's what I want you to understand now. Time is of essence. I'm old enough to say it goes like that. Children have a window to be a child, and that's it. Then they become adults, and you have to do the adulting, and it changes everything. What you experience as a child has an impact that carries you forever, forever. Greer, my grandson, has already been through preschool, kindergarten, and first grade. He's not going to get that back. He's not going to get that back. Going forward, there's opportunity to make a difference for him and for every single child. Other children like him, typical, atypical children in God's eyes are precious. If you have the opportunity to become a grandparent, you're going to know that it changes everything. It changes your world. I believe it with all my heart, and I thank you for your attention. I especially appreciate this being brought up on the agenda to consider and to make improvements. I especially appreciate that boldness. It is so noted and will be remembered forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Courtner.
Gotta follow that. Good evening, members of the board, educators, community members. I'm Kevin Courtner. I live at 106 Montview Drive in Hendersonville. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I come before you to address a matter that may seem simple on the surface, but holds profound significance for the children and families it affects. The urgent need for our elementary school playgrounds to be fully inclusive to children with mobility issues. Playgrounds are more than just places for recess. They're spaces where children develop social skills, build confidence, and experience the pure joy of play. They're where friendships are formed and where inclusion should begin, not end. Right now, many of our playgrounds unintentionally send a message to children with disabilities. You can watch, but you can't join. Imagine being a child and watching your classmates run, climb, and laugh, knowing that you're left out. Not because you lack the desire, but because the equipment or surface simply wasn't built with you in mind. I don't have to imagine this. I hear about it every day when my son gets home. Those of us in this room have the power and the responsibility to change that. Making playgrounds inclusive isn't just about adding ramps. It means thoughtful design, smooth surfaces, sensory play equipment, ground level features, and layouts that allow children of all abilities to play side by side. What good is that fancy new accessible swing if my son can't get to it because of the uneven surface? It's also about upholding the values we teach in our classrooms: fairness, respect, empathy, and belonging. When we design for inclusion, we don't just benefit students with disabilities. We create better environments for all children. Inclusive playgrounds foster understanding and friendship across differences from the earliest ages. There's an invisible world out here of special needs families. You go about your daily life without ever realizing it exists until one day you're thrust into it, and your eyes are open to the minute difficulties of everyday life that you previously took for granted. We are blessed to be a part of this world, but I would not wish it on anyone. And we will not go away. We will not stop advocating for our children. We will not stop trying to open others' eyes to these issues. Our numbers will grow and our voices will get louder. This isn't just the right thing to do, it's also supported by the law. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires public spaces, including school playgrounds, to be accessible and usable. Specifically, provisions 240 and 1008, which apply to play areas. More than compliance, this is a chance to lead with compassion and vision. You might say it's a chance to innovate. There are some who will tell you Sumner County is adhering to the letter of the law, which is debatable. Why can we not come together as a community and fulfill the intent of the law? We're asking that the board take steps to prioritize and fund the full accessibility of every elementary school playground in the county. That includes assessing current barriers, involving families and experts in the planning process, and ensuring that no child feels excluded simply because of how they move through the world. Several of our fellow citizens have tried to paint us as anti-athletics or against the current budget, funding upgrades and maintenance to athletic facilities across the county. This could not be further from the truth. We've been asked, why can't we just go to Mary's Magical Place or Miracle Park? We do, just not during school. Why can't you just play your games at Drake's Creek and bring a chair? We want Sumner County to have the best facilities in the state, athletic and otherwise. Each of our 2 older children participate in athletics at their respective schools. I'm as big a sports fan as you will find and love attending middle school football, basketball, high school baseball games all over our great county. The simple fact is, half of students in middle school or high school will ever step foot into one of these athletic facilities. Every single student in every single elementary school participates in recess every single day, most of which is held on that school's playground. Let's give all our students the chance to play, to grow, and to belong, because every child deserves that joy. Thank you.
Aaron Courtner.
This is Greer. I'm Erin, 106 Montview Drive. Can I start now? Does my time start now? Okay. We swaddled him tightly as we left the hospital that day, already in love with this tiny person that God blessed us with. We didn't know what path he had planned for us. Ignorance is bliss. We noticed him struggling to sit as easily as our other children. This poor little guy endured spinal taps, years of painful testing until we got the diagnosis: hereditary spastic paraplegia. Cue the denial, the questions. Did I do something wrong? Why God? Why him? Our physical therapist sat on the floor as I cried. Greer looked at me quizzically. Erin, she said, he's going to need braces, torsion cables, and a wheelchair. And he smiled up at me as if to say, it's okay, Mommy, I got this. Greer began Sumner County's developmental pre-K program in 2020. We had the best. We still do. Our only hiccup was the sped playground. There was nothing adaptable. The principal ordered a swing and advocated for years. The mulch was impossible to traverse, so he would climb down and crawl, eager to keep up with his friends. But I'm not sure why, because once he got there, he couldn't do anything but watch. His knees stayed raw and black from the rubber mulch. He was supposed to start kindergarten in 2022, but I held him back for one reason, and it was the playground. A year went by without progress. This binder holds 5 years of IEPs, emails, meeting notes, and the dog-eared ones include the word playground on them. One example under them says, under gross motor, given supervision, Greer will navigate his school environment, including classroom, playground, and transitions. Dr. Langford, We met October 26, 2023, per your request after seeing my post. I handed you a little burlap bag with a picture of my children that Greer signed along with 5 white pebbles. I told you that I felt like David and this was my Goliath. You assured me that you would address this at your board retreat and asked me to email a few equipment ideas, and I did, and I haven't heard back. Last week you said, and I quote, "I don't think you fairly represented the state of our playgrounds. If you feel that way, I'd encourage you to take your board members to watch a wheelchair-bound child during recess, in real time. Pretend it's your child or grandchild. And please tell me that you wouldn't move heaven and earth to make it palpable. You cannot unsee it." And as a side note, the turf at Greer's Playground is credited to our principals, past and present, and PTO, not federal funding. I didn't find that out till an IEP meeting. Board members, when you're sworn in, you pledge to place the interest of children above all else in every decision you make. How you vote tonight is a big decision. You also promise to uphold applicable federal and state laws and regulations. There are several, but one is linked at the bottom of the Sumner County School website. Look under reports and click on 504 ADA information and you can read it. Section 28, Code of Federal Regulations, Section A, subsection 1, under the 2010 ADA Standards for Accessible Design says, in short, that facilities constructed for a public entity shall be accessible and usable by those with disabilities. If construction was commenced after January 26 of 1992, at HHS, Helen Mary Hendricks taught me to be bold, to speak about what matters to me. This matters to me. And those watching from home, as they spoon feed their disabled children or de-escalate amygdala-driven meltdowns. Paul Decker and Miss Tao, if you know them, they taught me to stand up for what's right, especially when it's uncomfortable. This, for me, if you know me, is uncomfortable. Our children deserve not just compliant or accessible, but 100% inclusive at every school across Sumner County. I'll close with 2 things to ponder. Matthew 20.
Ms. Corner, can I get a motion to extend time? Second. All right.
Thank you. Sorry. Matthew 25:40 says, "Whatever you do for the least of these, you did for me." And finally, an excerpt from the Lorax. I'm a teacher, can you tell? "I speak for the trees. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." Thank you. Thank you.
Rebecca Goddard.
I don't know how you follow that. I'm Rebecca Goddard, 2339A New Hope Road, Hendersonville. I have been a special needs mom for 18 years. I had a graduate this weekend at Beach, and my child has a different capacity. He's level 3 autism with apraxia of speech and sensory issues and epilepsy. While our children have different abilities and needs, our desire, I think, as parents and as administrators and teachers is that all students feel valued. If they can walk or if they can talk, their life has value. I have been fighting this fight for 13 years as a mom of a nonverbal special needs child, just a place for him to be included. You can't build relationships if you can't talk, but playgrounds build relationships. People want to play. The kids want to play with them. They want to be a part. And they want, I have seen miracles happen on playgrounds. I have been in every playground in 12 different states. Our first playground in public school did not have a fence around it because the neighbors thought that it was aesthetically unpleasing to have a fence around the school, which I understand. However, it was kind of dumb. and the children would get out. And I can report that now, years and years and years later, they did finally put a fence around that school. Not because a kid got away, and not because thankfully no one got hurt, but because teenagers drove on the grass and ruined the grass. So they did finally put a fence around it. But I started this back, and we didn't want, I've also helped apply for grants in our old school district to get accessible playgrounds, ADA compliant with the appropriate, I know it's called something and I can't remember, but the ground that all adaptive devices can be used on. And my passion for the special needs population is that they're valued. They all have children with needs and they all should be valued. Their lives are valuable no matter what, and if you can walk or talk. My ask is that you come up with a plan and a playground for the children. There's 180 school days, and most of those days our kids can play. Athletic facilities maybe get used 20 times a year, but 180 days of playtime, of inclusion, of relationship building, of compassion, of mental health, and it gets the wiggles out. I mean, for teachers will be thankful. This is a great need. It will be valued by all in our community, not just a few, but all. And there are lots of policies and budget line items that everyone can bloviate over all day long, and that's fine. But I am way more concerned with all kids being included, all kids getting an opportunity to play, and the smiles and the laughter and the screaming. That's what I'm here for. That's what I want to provide to these children. I want to make sure that my word and my point is that the kids get what they need, and I think that they all need and deserve the playground that you all have the ability to provide today. Thank you.
Lindsay Doss.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lindsay Doss. My address is 204 Lacey Court in Portland. So I'm speaking today in regards to the teacher bonus resolution, but first I do want to say I too believe that we need fully inclusive playgrounds in our schools, so we need to find the money to make that happen. All of our students need to be able to participate in and use the playground equipment. So back to the teacher bonuses though. So I'm asking that an amendment be brought forth that asserts that our county is overall opposed to the voucher scam legislation. And I don't use the term scam lightly. I mean, that's what it is. And this legislation will do irreparable harm to our public schools. So in my email to the board, I did include a PDF that it's a similar resolution passed by Hamilton County Schools just this last week. So in it, you will find language similar to what I think our resolution needs, just more pointed anti-voucher language. So first, I do think the state giving us a one-time bonus is honestly insulting. I'm not saying that I couldn't use the money. I'm a teacher, I can always use the money. But this was basically a spoonful of sugar that's supposed to make it easier for us to swallow the fact that they're defunding our public schools. Teachers 100% deserve this bonus and more, but tying it to a scam designed to defund the very schools we work in, it's cruel. When you look at states that have passed similar scams, the costs aren't really felt the first year or two, but then when these programs are inevitably expanded, the budgets explode. And I mean, we see it in Arizona, I think Oklahoma's another state. And we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's hundreds of millions of dollars that public schools are not getting. And it leaves local districts to make up the difference. So how do they do that? Raising taxes or cutting programs. So I need to ask, what are we prepared to do to make up for that inevitable loss of funds? Also, public schools are not held to the same accountability standards that public schools are. If a system is accepting public dollars, then that system needs to be held to the same high standards that public schools are. We have heard for years from our lawmakers that we need more testing, we need more testing. Teachers won't do their jobs unless we test the kids to death. So now private schools, charter schools, whatever other kind of school takes advantage of this scam can take public dollars and they don't have to jump through the same hoops that public schools do. It's a scam. Private schools also get to pick and choose who they want to accept. Private schools do not have to honor IEPs or 504s. The scam is framed as school choice, but the reality is it's the school's choice because, again, private schools can choose who they accept. Public schools accept everyone. We educate the majority of the kids in this state. We need a fully funded public school system, and the voucher scam will make this nearly impossible. In my many conversations with state lawmakers, the assurance was made that they have fully funded public schools. But the facts disagree, and I can provide links to this if you need. A study done in Tennessee public schools found that schools across the state need a combined $10 billion in infrastructure needs. That is across the state, but still that's a large figure. That doesn't sound like a fully funded system to me. Tennessee currently ranks 47th in the nation for per pupil spending and 38th in teacher pay. Doesn't sound like a fully funded system to me. So why are we going to throw so much money into what essentially accounts for another school system when we're not fully funding the one that we have? That's not fiscally conservative, nor is it fiscally responsible. These past few years, there hasn't been a whole lot that everybody have agreed on, but the people in this state almost universally opposed this legislation across the political spectrum because we saw through the false school choice rhetoric and we understand what the vouchers will do. I do understand the difficult position you all are in regards to passing an amendment like this with anti-voucher language in it, since it was our local rep who sponsored the legislation, but I think that is what makes it all the more impactful. I do feel that it's important to call our friends out when they make a mistake, and the voucher legislation is a mistake. I'm an educator in this county. I'm a product of Sumner County Schools. I wouldn't teach anywhere else. It's the honor of my life to give back to the community. I can't help but get emotional. It's an honor to give back to this community. And I'm horrified of what the voucher legislation will do to. Is that all I got?
Are you good? Do you want
Amend
to?
the resolution.
Okay. All right. Gene Myers.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jean Myers, 213 Faraway Hills Drive, Gallatin. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I promise I will be brief. My name is Jean Myers. I've been a public school teacher for 29 years. 9 of those have been with Sumner County Schools. I'm a product of free public education along with the rest of my family, and I'm proud to say that I received an amazing education from my teachers. That education allowed me to move on to university and get 2 degrees. And I want that for all of our students. I want them to have the same opportunities I had if they wish. We all know that vouchers lead to underfunded public schools. When Americans' tax dollars are spent on private education, middle and lower income students and their families suffer. I was one of those kids. Hamilton County has changed the wording in their resolution that accepts the teacher bonus, but rejects the voucher initiative. This is why I'm supporting an amendment to our acceptance of the teacher bonus that states that, although we accept the money and certainly deserve this and much, much more, we emphatically reject the voucher scam that comes along with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michaela Schnitzer.
I'm impressed. You got that right. Good evening. My name is Michaela Schnetzer. Address 1004 Tyree Court South, White House. I'm coming to you tonight as a Sumner County mom, a former Sumner County educator and a current MMPS educator who has only and will only ever teach within our public school systems because they're crucial for our success as a nation. I'm coming tonight to ask our school board to amend the current resolution on school vouchers to include more specific anti-voucher wording, meaning we accept the teacher bonuses because our teachers deserve them, but we do not feel that the vouchers will be beneficial for our county. I believe it is important to have our distaste for the school vouchers in writing so that when things inevitably go south, like in Arizona, where I did teach, by the way, we've made a public stand against these absurd efforts by our state representatives who have very clearly made their ignorance in the terms of education quite clear. It is important to note that even with the measly $7,200 voucher, the average private tuition will still exceed what the average Sumner County family can afford. These vouchers, to put it simply, are a tax shelter for the wealthy whose children likely already attend private school. Counties that don't even have private schools will not be exempt, will still lose funds for their public schools, and will be responsible for making up the difference. Yes, Sumner County does have private schools, but this is still concerning considering that our commission is already notorious for not fully funding our public schools. Even though I wholeheartedly believe that teacher bribes, I mean bonuses, should not be tied to a harmful legislation, I do believe our teachers still 1,000 times over deserve to receive them. Outside of this specific situation, teacher bonuses should be yearly and at a much higher rate. Well-paid educators are effective educators, and our children and community deserve exactly that in our beloved public school system. I also want to take a quick second to express solidarity with the educators and families here tonight asking for inclusive playgrounds. As said earlier, what a beautiful legacy for our county, this board, and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Cruz.
Holly Cruz, 3275 Hartsville Pike, Stallion Springs. I sent an email earlier today regarding the two items that I would like to discuss with you. I apologize for getting it out so late. That end of the school year chaos has hit me fast. First, I would like to touch on the school voucher resolution, and I am asking you all to please consider adding additional language in that to say that Sumner County firmly rejects the voucher bill. While I understand that you all sit on this board as Republicans, I know that it is hard to hold your elected officials, my elected officials, our elected officials accountable. I know that that is difficult, being that you are a part of the same party, but I am begging you to please take into consideration the harm that this bill will cause our public school system. You sit on this board to represent our public school system, not private schools. You ran, I assume, because you fully support our public school system. The right to school choice is available. Parents can absolutely choose to send their children to a private school. They can choose to homeschool. It will be detrimental to our school system. I am asking you to add that language that we do reject the voucher scam. I also am here to speak about inclusive playgrounds. I sent an email again earlier, and I included a link to a documentary, and it's about 16 minutes, and I'm not sure if any of you have had time to watch it, but it features a family that I am friends with, and that is this beautiful Avonlea and her moms, Heather and Liz back there, and her brother Tennyson. They go to school with my daughter Rosie at Benny Bills. I also sent an email with some pictures of the Benny Bills playground. I sent them while I was sitting back there. I'm not sure if they came through yet, but I do ask that you look to see if those came, and hear the passion and the love that came from the parents that have spoken before me. I am a big sister to two brothers who have autism. Special education as a former teacher is obviously something that is incredibly important to me. I think that it's very hard to have listened to those speakers so far this evening and not be able to say that this is something that we should do. I really think that you all truly do believe that considering accessible, inclusive playgrounds is something that we should and can do. People have spoken. I know we spent a lot of money on a lot of facilities, and it's not new that our playgrounds are not safe and accessible for all students. I want Avonlea, when she starts kindergarten next year, to be able to navigate our playground. But as it is right now, she can't. She could use her gate walker, but it's not safe the way our playground is right now. I want her to have the opportunity to go and play with her class, play with my daughter out there on the playground, and be able to enjoy what we all take for granted every single day. We don't have to think about how to navigate from grass to sidewalk to mulch. We take it for granted. It's not a second thought to us. But for Avonlea, for her moms, it is. It is. For Aaron and Kevin, it is. It's something to think about every single day. Just like they said, every single day. I am asking that you agree to make some resolution to include money that's going to address this. And I would like for these parents to be included in this conversation. I mentioned also in my email, we do a Title I night, I think every year. I think why not have one for special education? Why not have a conversation every year where you bring educators, you bring parents together, and you talk about special education, you talk about what's happening, what's good, what's bad, what's ugly. It's out there. There's lots of fantastic ideas that these parents have, and I hope that you all will champion them. I hope you will hear them and see their kiddos. Thank you.
All right, I believe that completes all of our comments. So next item on the agenda is reports from the director, the May director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I'll wait for the slide deck to pick up. And as it's coming on, I will tell you we have some good news today. Before the first off, Mr. Widener is going to alert Ms. Brown if we get any kind of tornado warning or inclement weather where we need to take cover. So we'll be able to communicate that with everyone in time for us to take cover. So we are monitoring that, and of course we'll let you know if anything comes up. In terms of good news, we've got some news from state championship track. Station Camp High School today won the 4x800 girls relay, the 4x800 boys relay, the 4x100 girls relay for the second time in a row, and then Bryn Baltershop won the girls 1600 meters. So 4 different state championships already so far for Station Camp. All right. Rolling through, I want to talk a little bit about graduation. I had the opportunity, I made 6 graduations this year. It's hard to make more than that if you stay for any part of them, but it's really amazing. Each one, I think, maintains the character of the individual school, and I think that they're pretty exciting to be a part of. Some special moments on the left, you can see Dr. Woods. His son was co-valedictorian, and he's handing his son his diploma. They had a 70-foot tree fall in their house the night before graduation, and everyone was safe, but it did quite a bit of damage to their house. In the middle, you see Mr. Art Crook, the Dean of High School Principals in Sumner County, handing his last diploma. In the back there, we've got the next principal of Station Camp High School, Mr. Josh Ray. And we're thankful for Josh. Big shoes to fill, but he's ready, and he will do tremendous work. Josh, congratulations on state championships today. And then on the right, Mr. Powell at Beach High School had knee replacement surgery 2 weeks ago yesterday and passed out every diploma and stood on the stage for about an hour and a half. I asked him if the doctor cleared him to do that, and he said, well, he told me not to lie around. He told me to get up and do some stuff. I don't know that the doctor meant that, but he did. I wanted to focus on one of the things that Beach does that I think is really pretty amazing is they bring out on the stage all their kids that have received industry certifications, and they honor them. Because a lot of times, we have CTE award ceremonies and things like that, but a lot of times they don't get called out in front of everybody. So this is pretty impressive because it's just a snapshot of what happens at each of our high schools, but this is what they celebrated at Beach. 35 kids received their Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. 20 students earned an EKG nursing certification, 13 a CPCT. 3 got certified as pharmacy techs, 1 as a personal trainer. In early childhood, we had 8 CDAs. ARC and gas metal, we had 12. Cosmetology, we had 9 hair braiders. And then 2 students at Beach High School earned 1,500 hours of cosmetology credits. So that means all they have to do is take the test, and they're cosmetologists. That's saving their parents, they went to a private cosmetology school, about $30,000 or $40,000. So that's just at Beach High School. If you went to each of our graduations, you would see very, very similar numbers. Beach High School also had 8 students join the armed forces. They had 1 kid that graduated early. He completed basic training in the Navy and showed up in his uniform to walk with his classmates. We had that at Portland High School last year as well. As I just said, 44 Sumner County students enlist or join the United States Armed Forces. That's a record high for as long as we've been tracking it. That join the United States Armed Forces. So we celebrate that. These numbers will go up. This is kind of a snapshot of where we are now. Guidance counselors collect information from graduating seniors about scholarships that they're offered and scholarships that they accept. So this is the best information we have right now. Obviously, Monday morning after a Thursday through Saturday run of intense graduation was not the best moment to get counselors to be able to pull everything together, and some of these numbers are still coming up. I would expect these to go up, but right now we're at $70.7 million in offered scholarships, and I think that's conservative because I think if you look, Hendersonville High School is at $6.1 million with 1,400 students, and for instance, White House High is at $6.18 with 820 students. So I would expect that Hendersonville number to go up. That may be what Hendersonville kids accepted, not what they were offered. So I think this number is kind of low, but you can see that's a significant amount of money that our kids are earning in scholarships, and that's really pretty exciting. All right, let's talk about playgrounds. And first, let me start by saying I appreciate everyone taking the time to come out tonight and share your heart. I'm always afraid in these conversations that because we have to have a discussion and we have to make decisions about how to allocate public dollars, that somehow people are opposed to playgrounds, or that people that are in favor of playgrounds are opposed to sporting athletic events and things like that. I don't think that's the case at all. I believe firmly that everybody in Sumner County wants the best for their kids. And it's our job to try to put together plans so that we can maximize the good that we can do for everyone. I said last year when the visitor side bleachers collapsed at Beach High School that our goal was to make Liberty Creek the norm and to lift every other school up to the standard of Liberty Creek, and we've taken a lot of steps in that direction. My heart would be in the exact same place for playgrounds for special needs children. And so what I wanted to do is kind of walk through kind of where we are, and I think that there are some immediate short-term and long-term steps that we can take, because I think one of the speakers mentioned this is not something that's going to happen immediately, but there are things that can happen immediately. So let's go ahead and do the things that we can do immediately, and then let's look at what we can do short term, and then let's start building a long-term strategy. So I wanted to the first thing that I asked is, we have a team that's been working on playgrounds for a while. Obviously, as some of the speakers mentioned, some of our school playgrounds were designed and built before the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. So obviously there's a lot of work to be done to upgrade and build up our playgrounds. Because you will see in our newer schools, the level of playground equipment is significantly better, and we'll walk through that in just a second. But these are the groups that have worked over the years to try to improve our playgrounds.
Schools and daycares have done this internally through their funding when we've given them capital money a couple times, or just through fundraisers, or daycare through the money that parents pay into the daycare program. PTOs have raised significant money over the years to build out playgrounds. Special education department has worked more in a consultation, sometimes what we find is that schools have been given a lot of autonomy and responsibility. Schools have made the decisions about what's on their playgrounds, but I want to be really clear, it's not the principal or the school's fault that they don't have all the inclusive playground equipment, because they didn't have the money, the engineering, the support to do it. Our special ed department, when a student has a need with mobility, has sat down with every principal and talked about ways to make the playground better. So I want to be clear, this is something because of the way that we've done things. A lot of our schools built over the course of 50, 60, 70 years, and then us trying to address the needs, sometimes without a lot of money. You've got to remember, before 2014, 2015, we had not done significant maintenance and upgrades to buildings in about 40 years. The classroom that I taught at White House High School in 2009 looked identical to the classroom I sat in 1989. And it looked identical to someone who had been in that classroom in 1977 when the school opened. So, we've made a long, hard run since 2014-15 to make significant improvements to our schools, to build on, to prepare for growth, to build new schools. Last year with the stadium collapse, to work on athletic facilities, and now it's time for us to look at playgrounds. But I want to commend, because what I don't want to have happen is, if you know the heart of our special education department, they have worked tirelessly over the years to try to get the very best for kids. It's not, I want to avoid language where we blame or point fingers. We're past that. Let's just try to work together to get good solutions that enrich the lives of our kids. You hear a lot in education, all means all, but all also means each. And we want each student to be valued, to be included, and to have a great experience every day, because playground is important. It is an important, if you survey most elementary kids, probably the two favorite parts of their day, playground and cafeteria. Then English class, because everybody loves a good English class. Maybe that third one scores lower. Pre-K, our pre-K programs have tried to add, especially since our 3-year-old and Peer Buddy special ed or pre-K, quite honestly and quite frequently, is where special education students, especially students with mobility needs, begin their time with us in Sumner County. So they've tried to use grant money and other things to add playground equipment that's accessible. Coordinated school health and our student health team. Ms. Herron has worked, she has our PE program and fitness programs and things like that. They have received some grants and they have invested money. We have some accessible playground equipment going to Whitten this summer that was purchased through Coordinated School Health. One of the things that we've been talking about, last year we put into the budget a grant writer. Now, our grant writer didn't start with us until, I believe, around September, October, but she is fast and furiously learning and writing grants. So one of the things that we learned, for us to qualify for grants that will help us move the needle faster for kids, for playgrounds, is we need to have an active living community study. We need to work with other health partners in the community and identify needs, develop a plan, and that kind of work will help us qualify for grants. I'm not saying that we only fund this with grants, but if we can get matching dollars or things like that so that we can do more with the funds that we have, that makes a lot of sense to me, and our grant writer is really exceptional at doing that. All right, so I wanted to walk through, I had our team identify where we currently have students with wheelchairs or with mobility challenges. And so I wanted to walk through each playground, identify the current equipment we have there, the number of current students, and the obstacles on that playground. Now, understand that these numbers can change, right? For instance, you have a student new coming to Benny Bills that we met earlier that is lovely and wonderful, and we want to do what we can to take care of her, but she wasn't in Benny Bills last year. She'll be in Benny Bills next year. So sometimes we have a playground that has zero accessible playground equipment get a student, and then we try to address those needs as quickly as possible. I think that's one of the things that we can try to address through the way we spend capital money and things like that, is to have the ability to be able to quickly add that equipment. I skipped over this at the start. These are 4 of the main pieces that we see now that we're adding to playgrounds. And the good thing about these, also, tracks and basketball courts are some other things if I put too many pictures on there, you couldn't see any of them. But I wanted to show what some of the equipment looks like just so you could visualize it. This is 4 pieces of accessible playground equipment. All right, so Gene Brown has 2 adaptive swings, 4 current students, and the obstacle is an accessible path to the track. Station Camp Elementary has 2 adaptive swings, a turf surface. It's field turf and feels like grass. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we have on a lot of our other playgrounds. Gaga Pit, I didn't know what a Gaga Pit was until last year, but kids absolutely love a good Gaga Pit. Basketball court, walking track. We have 4 current students at Station Camp Elementary. And the problem that we have, you heard several of the speakers make mention of this, we're trying to move away from mulch wherever we can. The cost of going to more accessible surfacing for playgrounds is really expensive. I'll go ahead and jump ahead here. I think this is on a later slide. We are building a new playground for Gallatin Early Learning Center, and we are piloting a new surface material that's about half the price of what it costs to build something like at Mary's Magical Playground. If that works out well, it'll be easier for us to look at adding that in other playgrounds, because it is significantly cheaper and it's better than what we're currently doing. But we want to see how that works before we commit to adding that other places. H.B. Williams, 1 adaptive swing, 3 current students. The obstacle is access to a track and basketball court. Jack Anderson, wheelchair swing bay for the 2nd to 5th grades, they have a wheelchair swing bay in the older kid playground and playground surfacing in the K1 playground area. They have 2 current students. The obstacle is getting to the bigger kid playground. Getting there is a challenge. Clyde Riggs Elementary School, we have a wheelchair swing and a track, 2 current students, and mulch impeding accessibility. Lakeside Park, we have no current equipment, but 2 students. I believe that 1 is coming, Norma, I think, and then we need accessible pathways for whatever equipment we add there. White House Intermediate School, this is one of our brand new schools, so you can see partial turf, an adaptive swing, wheelchair swing, mulch digger, sensory panels, basketball hoop. We have 2 current students, and we have more accessible pathways, but mulch blows and gets on, and it makes it harder for kids with mobility needs to navigate. All right, George Whitten Elementary School, we have ordered equipment that will be here this summer that is included on this list. K1 adaptive swing, an ADA fun ball game, wheel through arcade. We have 2 current students, and we need accessible pathway to the track and playground. Howard Elementary School, they have no current equipment. They have 1 current student. We need accessible pathway to the track, and then obviously equipment. Beach Elementary School, current equipment none, current students 1. The obstacles is mulch and getting an accessible pathway to the track. Benny Bills Elementary School, 2 adaptive swings, 1 current student. We need an accessible pathway to the 3-5 playground and track. Ms. Cruz has sent some pictures earlier that you see. We've already been out and made some repairs, and they're working on that to get ready for next year. I'll have that down as something that's kind of a short-term fix in just a few minutes. Portland Gateview, wheelchair swing and adaptive swing. We have 1 student at Gateview. Gap between sidewalk to the track. You'll see that in a lot of places. There are drop-offs and gaps as we go from sidewalk to the track, or there's a drop-off to the grass and then to the track. Just the obstacles are accessibility. Deep wood chip mulch, and the playground on the hill is muddy. And it is muddy. Indian Lake Elementary School, 2 adaptive swings, 1 current student. We need an accessible playground or pathway to the track and a grassy hill to the playground. and there is a grassy hill, on the way to the playground. Liberty Creek Elementary, again, one of our newer schools. Wheelchair swing, adaptive swing, a mulch digger, basketball court. We have one student, and again, mulch, and we need an accessible path to the basketball court. Madison Creek, no equipment, but one current student. A dirt path to basketball court gets muddy when it rains. William Burris, we have an adaptive swing and one student. We need accessible pathway to the track and basketball court. So if you notice, the same language came up time and time again on the slides as we look at where we currently have students. Increasing accessible playground equipment, accessible pathways, mulch impeding access and surfaces on playgrounds. In some places, the mulch impeding access is as simple as making it a responsibility for a custodian or staff member or someone to blow the mulch off of the walkway or of the mats to make it easier to navigate. That's a short-term or an immediate fix, something we can do to make it more accessible today. Other places, we need to get rid of mulch because it's too hard to navigate a wheelchair, especially across the playground. There's a difference between some mulch being on an accessible pathway that makes it harder to use a wheelchair versus it being inaccessible because of thick or deep mulch. And then surfaces on playgrounds. The surfaces is probably the most expensive and the hardest to work around because it is very expensive to build out the playground surfaces. Because when we do this, we don't want to just do. I mean, I'm okay if we start in some small areas and do parts, but I think it's better than having mulch everywhere. But it's also bad to say you can only go to one part of the playground and not access the whole playground. So how do we move quickly to increase accessibility everywhere? So what is my recommendation for tonight? Some of this is something I know several of you have talked about offering amendments tonight. Certainly I would encourage you to do so if you feel that that's best. Understand that it's hard to rework a budget from the floor. It's hard for Ms. Brown to do that because when you move $1 from one place, it has to come out from another place. So I would recommend that as we talk about budget implications, that that maybe what we do is issue let us study this for a month and come back with some proposals for some equipment we can add, because we can probably do this through either capital at the end of this year or in our capital budget next year. And that'll be a little easier than trying to rework the budget tonight from the floor. That's hard to do without changing things and missing things. So let me talk through what I'm thinking. In the summer, we already have some equipment that's ordered. We can certainly order more. Addressing accessible pathways. We are working with maintenance now to get an idea of what it costs and what we need to do to build accessible pathways, right? As many as we can to upgrade accessibility as quickly as possible. We continue writing grants. I mentioned earlier the Active Living Community Study. That's an important piece for us to start getting bigger grants. Some of these grants are $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Ms. Norfleet is very good at finding those grants and getting them. But what she's already discovered is for us to have a chance to get the grants, we have to work with our coordinated school health team, and we have to get some of these things in place, like the Active Living Community Study. In August, I think the date is August 16th, but don't quote me on that. Ms. Daniel, our new Director of Exceptional Education, and I are keynoting the Special Education Collaborative. I heard several speakers mention earlier that we needed to include all voices, and I agree. We did that when we planned the football stadiums. We had the most inclusive group of parents and community members to participate in that process, and we got really good product. We want to do the same thing here. I think the start is sadly, because there's so much compliance and legality often included in the process of IEPs, I am saddened that where we've kind of gone as a country, this is not a Sumner County thing, this is a national trend, is we've lost sight of individual students because we get caught up in the legalities of what it means to write an IEP, what it means to meet federal law, all of those things. And what we need to do is always remember that there is a child that sits in that IEP. There are teachers that help support that. There are SPED supervisors that pour their hearts and energy and effort into making sure that our children get everything that they need. And what I love about the Special Education Collaborative is that they try to bring everybody together and provide a forum for everybody to sit down and talk. And I think that's a big first step. I'm looking forward to going there to keynote with Ms. Daniel. And you know, we obviously haven't drafted what we're going to speak about yet, but I can tell you that when I talked to the person organizing the conference, the expressed need was, how do we work together for all students, or how do we work together for each student? And that's something that we can begin. What I would like to include in that is a call to have an accessible playground task force. I put a date on there. That's a Wednesday. That's not set in stone. What we need to do is get the right people there and then figure out if it's September 11th, if it's September 9th. That's not a big deal. That gives us enough time to begin to work on some of the things that we can do here. It gives Ms. Norfleet time to explore more grants. And then what I would suggest that we do is very much like we did with the athletic facility plan, is let's put together, let's dream, let's start with dreams of what we want it to look like, and then let's work backwards. What are immediate things that we can do? What are short-term things that we can do? What do we need substantial money to do? Because some things will cost substantially. When Mary's Magical Kingdom was built, I believe it was $1.6 million. I can tell you that anything that cost $1.6 million when that was built costs more today. We saw that with the difference from when we built Liberty Creek High School and Elementary to when we built White House Intermediate and Liberty Creek Middle, and we saw that when we bid the football stadiums versus when we bid the tracks. Right, the prices went up a lot. And so what we want to be able to do is say, this is realistically what we can do now. This is where we're going to stretch. This is where we're going to try to find. I also think, in addition to grants, I think that there are probably people in the community. I think that there are community partners that would contribute to this. But for us to be able to ask for those things, I don't mind going and asking for money to do things for the school system. I know that the people in Sumner County that I talk to that give money to support us will support these things. But what we need to be able to do is not just say, hey, I need $500,000, love Scott. What I would like to be able to do is say, hey, we've had a group of the community that's come together to say, this is our dream for what we want for our kids. We want it today, we actually want it yesterday, or last year, we want it today, we want it tomorrow, we want it a year, we want 5 years, we want 10 years. And then we put that, we bring that to the board. We vote on that, and then my team will start working tirelessly to try to find the ways to make it happen. And we'll also have a team of supporters across the community to also work to try to make that happen. So that is my recommendation. I'm happy to stop here for a minute. I know I've been talking for about 10 or 15 minutes to see if there are any questions.
Ms. Brittany?
I know I brought this up last time, and I love that you're talking about it, potential grants. I think we've talked a little bit offline on how we can target those. I'd like to understand better what an active living community study is and what that entails. And the other question I'd like to know is, can we do some reporting on what grants we're going after, wins and losses, dollars, maybe on a semi-regular basis,
Sure.
so that we're understanding?
Yeah, I think that that's very fair. We've never had we've had people that wrote grants, like Ms. Katie Brad has written grants, but she did that as part of 300 other things that she was doing. And some of the grants that she was writing were targeted towards, she's written grants for everything. But now that we have a person that their full-time job is to write grants, I think it's very reasonable for us to report that and talk about, so we can see the return on our investment and see the work that's doing. Because I can tell you'll be pretty amazed at what Ms. Norfleet is able to do. Yes, we can absolutely do that.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I want to be excited.
Yes, I agree. And I'm going to let Ms. Herring explain what an active living community study is.
Well, my coordinated school health team is the one that's heading up that project, so they can speak on it much better than me. But we're supposed to work with other community partners. So the Sumner Health Coalition, we've got some other community partners that are made up of folks from the health department, just folks from, you know, the various hospitals. And it's an assessment of the needs, I think, in your community. And it's something that the grant awardees typically possess so they can be more competitive in the grants. So we had applied for some grants, about $450,000 worth of grants, and the reason we didn't get it, it was cited that we had not done that piece. So we've already got a location, and we're working on going ahead and getting that going so we can be much more competitive this next go round.
Okay, I want to be clear. When they say active living community, we're looking at the Sumner County schools, all of Sumner County.
That would be part of it, but they want the whole community as a whole looked at, but the schools will be a huge part. But the fact that we haven't worked together in this capacity, they feel like that needs to be done before they consider us, you know, more deserving, I guess, of the grants.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to piggyback up that, we did some similar work this year. Sumner Regional was doing, it's not active living community study, but it was basically the same type thing where they were getting feedback for grants that they were writing, and they brought in, you know, the health department, other medical professionals, school system people, everybody that was active out in the community to get feedback about, to do kind of a vision casting, kind of what do you see as important, things like that. So I think it would be very similar to that. Not just the school system, but including, you know, if we're talking about playgrounds in Portland or Westmoreland or White House or Hendersonville or Gallatin, including people from those communities to make sure that we're getting feedback, parents, different groups like that.
Mr. Lancaster?
A couple things. One of these, I mean, obviously we've got several things that we have to address here, but what is some of this equipment, or what's like the average price of a piece of this equipment?
So this does not include installation. All four of those pieces together are about $11,200.
Okay. Total combined?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's not including installation. It's not including the servicing. That's just for the actual equipment.
Right. And again, there's a couple of things I'm thinking here. One, what can we do short term to at least get equipment ordered and, you know, in use as much as possible? I know our maintenance department is great at, you know, concrete and things like that. So there's things that we can do pathways on. But one that I would like to think about for this, as far as the community aspect, is can we put together, Ms. Porter made me think of binders, can we put together a binder of all of our elementary schools, what they need, and like, so that when we, or whether it be the principals, whether it be you, whether it be board, you know, because we're all involved in different aspects within the community, and we say, hey, if we're going to, you know, Chamber of Commerce in Hendersonville or whatever, here's some things that you're looking for something to do. Here's some specific either equipment, you know, immediate things that you can hand pick. If we, you know, if you want your name put on there, whatever, we'll work with you to make you happy and recognized and whatever. As another alternative to getting, you know, to attacking this problem, because that's what it is, a problem, and we gotta figure out as many different ways to attack it as possible. So that would be one other aspect that I would like to, at least by this September meeting, you know, have something that we can, in a pamphlet or whatever, hand out, say here or.
Yeah, and I don't want you to think, I'm not proposing that we wait until September to do anything.
No.
I'm saying that between now and September, we work on, like, to me, the biggest need that we have right now that we need to address immediately is the pathways to get to the playgrounds to make sure that they're more accessible. And then adding equipment, like the schools, because I agree with you about a binder so that, or I mean, I don't know if a binder's the 2025 version, but whatever, something where, you know, something probably digital that we could share out so that schools could have it.
SharePoint.
Yeah, something like that. That's at least 2019. But I think that we can come up with something where we can share it. And yes, I agree with you. I think that'd be good, because I think the other thing is, like, when schools come in for strategic planning, one of the things that Ms. Brown always does is look at things like their daycare funds or things like that, because they'll ask if they can buy stuff, and she will help them understand this is an appropriate use of those funds. Like, if a school has an excess of daycare funds, daycare funds are money that's given to the school for daycare for the kids that attend, and it has to be spent on items that kids in the daycare use. So daycare funds are great to use on playgrounds, because every daycare program is going to use the playground. So that's a way for us to supplement some of the stuff that's there, and that's an easy conversation we can have during strategic planning and during budget with schools, to say, because some of this equipment's not terribly expensive. I think where the expense starts to come in is the surfacing and the accessible pathways. Like, that's more than a school could do. Those are the kind of things that we need to work on. So the schools that are included in what I shared tonight are the schools where we currently or will have students in wheelchairs or with mobility concerns. Now, granted, as Ms. Dam always points out, that could change by the hour. We could have someone enroll tomorrow or next week or the week after, that then changes what our needs are. But if we can start addressing where we know we have kids, then that builds out our capacity, so that if we have a child enroll in a school where we don't have anything, then we're looking at, I think where we want to get is where, then as we move forward, we try to just include it. Like, if we build a new school, we include this in the design. It's a no-brainer. That's the new standard. We did that between even Liberty Creek Elementary and White House Intermediate, and we improved that from White House Intermediate to Gallatin Early Learning Center. What we learned from Gallatin Early Learning Center, we will carry on and lift the bar for whatever comes next. And that's a healthy process that we need to do on everything that we do. But yes, Mr. Lancaster, for the short term, I think if we just make it known as PTOs, as other groups are going out, it's very easy to show and say, hey, can you give $2,200 for the mulch digger? I think that's around what it costs. Don't quote me on that price, but that's something that I think would be really pretty easy to fundraise for, because that's a pretty cool piece of equipment. But again, I think that for us, it's more working on the surfacing and the accessible walkways.
Right, and the other thing that I'm trying to, I know we have some schools that have probably more challenges than others, simply from the way the school is designed, and where the playground is, and things like that. And I'm not saying that that nothing is possible. But at the same time, for those that are more long-term to fix, is there a policy? Like, when I say policy, so if my kid, or if somebody's kid is zoned for a school that doesn't have anything but could go to a school, right? Can we do something there from a zoning, like, hey?
Yeah, that is. The concern there is we don't want a child to have to not go to the school where they're zoned based on.
And I'm saying give it, what I'm saying is, like, hey, parent,
yes,
this is the option
right
now, right? Beach Elementary is the one I'm most familiar with, because that's what my kid, I go there at least once a day to drop or pick up a kid. It's hard in my mind to visualize how it's a step up for a 43-year-old man to get into the playground at that school because of the way the mulch is, and then you got it's down a hill, and it's going to take some serious work to get that one to where it's accessible for all. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Not trying to say that it's impossible. It's just
I agree with you. I just don't want to say my answer can never be, we want to move your child because your child's zone school is not. And I understand that's not what you're saying.
What I'm saying is give parents that option to be.
Yes, we can
communicate it to, like, hey,
we can do that, and we do that. It's just, we try to keep kids in their school zone just because that's who they're in the neighborhood with and who they grow up with.
Okay. I think like I say, it's every other, it's a big problem. It's a serious problem, and it's like anything else. You gotta just, take it one bite at a time.
Yeah, I mean, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and it's time to take more than one step, but to get down the road so that we can start working towards a long-term solution.
Mr. Leeson?
Yeah, I'm not saying this is our intentions, but when I hear committee, I think that's kind of where something goes to die.
Yeah.
But I pray that, I don't think we would do that, but,
Yeah.
could we get some of these families that are in the audience to be a part of that committee?
Oh, 100%.
That way
Yeah.
we get the input from some people who know exactly what they need.
Yeah. I mean, I still have the 5 rocks in the picture on my desk. I haven't forgotten you. It's just that you'll see when I get my director's report later that there's a lot of learning when it comes to be director of schools and a lot of growth. And, I apologize for not communicating quicker, but it hasn't left my heart. It's just trying to figure out how we can do it. So, yes, I agree, Mr. Lacy.
Thank you. And I think it's very important that we do this. I think there's a scripture in the Bible that says, if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me.
Yeah.
And I think these kids deserve the best.
Yeah.
If
I agree.
anybody in our school system does, they do.
Yeah, I agree.
Ms. Stewart?
Yeah, I think a couple of them got answered questions, but are we going to start with an order like worst schools first? Like you said, some of them were built prior to ADA
Yeah.
compliance, so is that where we would start, or?
I would say we start where kids are now.
Okay.
And then have the ability, if we have a new school where a child enrolls, we will learn, what I have learned over we know a lot about building football stadiums now, right?
Yeah, should.
Like, I know too much about it. Like, I'm ready to not do football stadium construction, right? Like, I'm happy to leave that behind. But we've learned a lot about it. I can say, I was, when I was principal at White House, we were one of the first schools in the first wave of renovations in 2015. And I learned more about asbestos than I ever want to know. Right, but if we had to do it again, I would know how to do it better because of that. So I think what we want to do is start where we have kids currently, and then how can we maximize accessibility? How can we increase the amount of playground equipment there? And then we work out, right? Because if we have limited dollars, I'd recommend that we spend those dollars where it most benefits the kids right now, and then we work out from there. So sometimes that would be, but sometimes too, I think there's some real limitations, as Mr. Lancaster mentioned. Some of the playgrounds to fix them and repair them is going to be extensive.
So some of the ones that already have equipment that are not as easily accessible, is that something where we could start with, and I'm going to say concrete for lack of a better thing, can that not be done? And I'm saying this because there's so much building going on here in our county.
Mm-hmm.
Can we not partner with, as you said, there's going to be some partnering, concrete companies and builders and Meta and everybody else that they're giving money to? Can we? Are we allowed to approach these people?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we take money.
From anywhere.
Yeah, we're happy to accept donations.
I mean, and I'm just saying that because I don't know how that works.
Could we set up a GoFundMe page as a board, or whatever, individual?
Well, and with our PTO people, I mean, if we can help them, I'm available.
I think that there's a couple things. I think that there is the expertise so that they get the right stuff and know what to do. And I think that we already have. We have 2 people in maintenance that are playground certified to identify things like fall zones, what you need, how you set it up, the grading, all that stuff. We can also obviously bring in people, because a lot of times the vendors that sell the equipment also have experts that will help you get the right stuff, the right equipment, and the right setup. It's an incentive that they provide for you to use their service, but it saves us a good bit. So I think there's that. I think there's also, like you say, making this. I think just telling the story of how important this is will help a lot with PTOs and other groups. And then I think we can start doing, Ms. Skinner and I spent our entire first year here going around talking about what was great about our schools and connecting to communities. We're speaking to the Gallatin Rotary on Thursday. I'll mention this, hey, we've got an initiative now on accessible playgrounds. And, if you go to a Rotary Club or you go to the Chamber of Commerce, there are people there that will automatically, you know, they'll even just write you a check so that you don't have to pay the fees on. That's my only concern about the GoFundMe is that you know, they hit you for about 8% of what you make. But yeah, I think Ms. Stewart, I think we can absolutely do that.
Well, even the task force, ask some of these builders to be on the task force. They'll surely write you a check rather than have to go to a meeting or something. They'll write you a check, I promise you.
Yes.
So.
Hey, I'm shameless about asking for money.
Me too. I'll take it. I don't care. Just give it to me.
That's actually been said on Facebook.
Thank you.
Mr. King?
Yeah, so I brought some material tonight I'd love to share, and I'll share that when we get to our budget discussion. I would love to share that with everybody. I've got some pictures of some of the play equipment I think you'll find really cool, and you know, some other things. So I just wanted to let you know I did bring some things to share with you guys. So there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, secondly, I've got a plan to put together too. I just think, I mean, I don't know if this is, like, for your perspective with your report, like, is there anything else that you need to, anything else you're going to talk about tonight? Okay, cool.
I mean, I've got other stuff to talk about, but not about this.
Not about this. Only reason why I say that is, like, if we're going to discuss it, I think we should wait and do it during new business so we can actually do something about it and give your perspectives there.
Yeah, I would encourage you to understand that the main focus of tonight is to get our budget passed so that we can move the whole school system. And then let's work productively. I can get you more information for the June meeting, and we can start taking some steps immediately. We've got a pretty good idea of what we need. You know, obviously, like for instance, working at working at Benny Bill's. You know, that's going to be a little bit more extensive of a job, but that's something that we can start working on. I think that, you know, and Mr. Evans, to your point, like, y'all make the policy and I execute it. You know, it's my job to supervise the execution of that policy. But the other thing I think that part of my job is to go out and make the moral cause for what it is that we think is important. And I will spend the next year, whenever we go out, everywhere I speak, I will mention this as a primary need. It's something that we're focusing on. And I know that the people of Sumner County, yes, there are builders that will 100% write a check to not to go to a meeting, but a lot of times those same people will go out and call 10 friends and say, hey, this is good, you also write a check. And they may threaten them with a meeting, but hey, I like a good meeting. That's a good threat.
Yeah, I do have one question. You talked about what I would look at as the minimum expectation, which is getting the equipment that you've ordered installed this summer, working on the pathways to the playground. I mean, I think the pictures that you've got up here on the screen, while the equipment's great, I think some of the challenges that were expressed by the group, mulch, grass, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But does the budget, current year budget, and the proposed budget that we're voting on tonight, does that include the funding to improve the pathways that you've talked about and install the currently purchased equipment?
Yeah. The installed equipment will happen, like what they ordered for Witten, it includes installation and all that kind of stuff. I agree, Mr. Daniels, that the worst thing to do is to buy a bunch of equipment and install it and not be able to get to it. So we got to balance the accessible pathways. So what that's going to happen is prioritization by maintenance. It's going to probably mean that there will be some buildings that don't get painted, or some things that we would have done, because like we're entering into, if I'm just being truthful about what I think I see coming on the horizon for us, is I can show you everything that I think that we're budgeting for and doing, like capital projects, but I can tell you like prices are about to go up dramatically. And so I think we have to understand the caveat that we're going to be operating in a different economic sphere for the next couple months. It's not necessarily, some things are going to go down, but a lot of things are going to go up, and we're going to have to kind of look at it. But yes, I mean, the reality is like what I want to do is talk to Mr. Brown and say, hey, this is a major initiative. This summer, we're doing this. Probably there's the money in there. It's going to really be the hours while they're cutting grass and everything else and doing their summer maintenance projects, to say they're going to have to pull people off and dedicate that to the cement work. And let me be clear, we're not talking about cement as a playground surface. We're talking about that for pathways to get to the playground. But that's a concern that we have in a lot of places, is getting there. But yeah, there will be trade-offs, but the thing is, like, Mr. Brown does a great job of managing his budget. He usually turns back in a substantial amount of money. We'll turn in less this year, and next year as we're working towards doing some of these projects.
And I think in my mind, the other question is just, if you're spending money on things, are we purchasing the right things? Are these the pieces of equipment that are most beneficial for those students?
Yeah.
Or are there other things that we're missing? And then building out in our minds, what's the minimum expectation that any inclusive playground should have, so that it's at every campus?
Yeah, and I think that's actually good to hear from some of the kids to say this is the equipment that we enjoy. Because I also don't want to, I don't want to pick out playground equipment that I enjoyed as a kid. What's that? Yeah, and Norma has a team of occupational therapists and physical therapists that will.
Physical therapists and occupational therapists are actually out on the playgrounds with these students, so they've got a good handle on what kids like. We've bought some things in the past and nobody's interested in them, so we don't get those anymore. So they are working with the students on the playground, so they see firsthand what's needed.
Thank you. All right, no more questions on this topic?
All right.
All right.
Okay, let's talk educational scholarships. I just wanted to give you an update. I'm not here to debate the merits of it or anything like that. I just want to share some things. I received an email from the Commissioner of Education today that let me know we have not passed a resolution yet, and that if we want our teachers to get the bonus, it must be passed, signed by Mr. Daniels and myself, and uploaded into the computer on ePlan by June 1st, 2025 for teachers to get the $2,000 bonus. So we need to do that tonight, or else unless we have a special call meeting, we won't have the opportunity to do that before then. Currently, there are 1,644 Sumner County residents who have applied for educational scholarships. Now, we don't have a list. We don't know how many of them are currently private school students. Obviously, JP2 has about 700-800 students. Highland Academy, Sumner Academy. There are others that Hendersonville Christian Academy. But we have kids that go to Good Pasture, that go to Lipscomb, that go to even places like CPA and Ensworth. We have kids that go to a bunch of different schools, private schools in and out of the county. Christian Community in Robertson County, Davidson Academy. So we don't know the number of kids that have applied for the education scholarship. There is a hold harmless provision in the education scholarship law. We will not be penalized for students who utilize an education scholarship that are currently our student. And I would also remind everybody, as we pass a resolution, as we're considering adding language or anything, to also remember, because just as I said with everything else, it's easy in this day and age to demonize people that we disagree with. I get the feedback on my director's report. Like I looked at my evaluations briefly. I know that I have work to do because I fall prey to it just like anyone else. I can certainly do better by presuming positive intent and giving the benefit of the doubt and asking a question instead of making a statement. I just want to be on the record and say that if you talk to House Majority Leader Lamberth, if you talk to Senator Hale, if you talk to Mr. Slater, if you talk to Mr. Garrett, we have a luxury in Sumner County that when there is something before the legislature, they give us the opportunity to give input and advice, and probably 98% of the time they listen, and when they can't, we have a conversation, and usually I can understand their perspective and they can understand mine. So, just to be fair to them, understand that in 2014-15 budget, the state of Tennessee gave us $123 million. This year we're receiving $211.5 million. That's about an $88 million increase in 10 years. Over $1 billion that's been put into teacher raises since 2015. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. Do we have a long way to go? Yes. My concern And I say this not to take a stance on vouchers or anything like that, educational scholarships, whatever it is. My primary responsibility is to make sure that we can keep doing the great things that we have done over the last 10, 12 years for kids, last 40 years for kids. And that requires us, you know, Dr. Phillips and I shared one core belief, which is if you believe something is true and good for kids, you put it in that book, right? If you don't put it in the budget book and you don't put it there every year, then you don't really believe it. It's aspirational or it's wishful thinking. And so I have concerns about tweaking people that have the decision-making authority to give us money. So I would just say, as we think about the language, my caution is to let's think about the way that we word anything like that so that we don't create adversarial relationships for people that have been pretty good to us. So that's just, that's my kind of recommendation there. But my absolute recommendation is we need to pass the resolution tonight with whatever wording is there so that we can get that signed, scanned, and uploaded so that we can get the $2,000 bonuses for our teachers.
Ms. Rhodes?
Yeah, clarification. It says we won't be penalized for students who utilize it. Is that just for this year, or is this for the duration of them using the vouchers year to year?
Yeah, what we've been told is that, like, if they take that voucher, then we get that money.
But for the course of the time that they're in that.
My understanding is for the course of the time while they're there.
Is that a one-time, like, fund giving?
Mr. Lacy, can you, yep. No, I'm just saying, can you turn on your microphone?
Is that a one-time 2,000 or is that yearly?
That part's not clear. I've been assured that it's ongoing.
No.
The bonus.
Oh, the bonus is, I'm sorry. The bonus is one time. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Lacy.
And it's taxed, right?
So they put in the money.
So it's $17.50 really.
Well, yeah. So when you get it, like what we've had in the past, the state has said we're going to give teachers $1,000 stipend to complete some kind of training, and they would complete the training, and we had to take out their taxes, but we also had to take out our taxes too, because, or the employer side of the taxes, because there was no fund to do that. What they put into this $2,000 bonus is enough to cover the employer taxes and benefits, so that the only thing that's coming out of it is the employees' taxes and benefits.
Ms. Hayes?
Thank you, Chairman. Do we know when our teachers will receive this? So we sign it, we get it back to them tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You guys sign it, we get it back to them tomorrow. By June 1st, when are our teachers expected to see this bonus?
So the funding mechanism that the state put forward is it starts, we can't access that money until July 1st. Okay? There's no way that we'll be ready to access that money on July 1st. We have to, basically, the teachers, they've already been working on it, but you have to download the number of teachers out of T. They're using T in Compass because it's not everybody. It's all certified teachers, but there are some rules like how much time do they have with students, right? So they're different. Like what I'd like to do is probably just put that into a slide for next time, and I can explain all that because there's still some questions that we're getting answered on that. So we will submit a slide, or we will submit a spreadsheet to the state. We'll upload it into ePlan, and it'll include all the teachers that qualify based on the guidelines that they've given us. We will submit that, and then sometime after July 1, the state will drop that money into our account, and then we will begin the payroll process. Understand that we have to hit, it comes at our end of year because our budget year is July 1 through June 30th. So it's an extra, we're going to run it as an extra payroll so that we can get it into the hands of our employees as quickly as possible. But I think we were thinking, Ms. Brown, was it mid-August?
So we'll have our end of July normal payroll. We'll have our summer scholars payroll, which is an additional payroll. We'll also have all of our new hire ending of employments and new hire processing. So our goal is hopefully that we'll have that in August, but it'll kind of depend on the information that we receive back from the state and the clarity we can get.
specifically the way it was written and the information that you have, this is the only people that get the bonus is the teachers, correct? Not admin, not staff.
No, there's a requirement for FaceTime with students.
Okay.
And what I want to do is in the June meeting, when we have a lot of these questions answered, is I want to put out a communication to our employees that's really clear about who is included in the law, right? Because when you say certified, I will say this is done better than in the old days when we had BEP, because BEP funded like 60% of certain classes but none of others, and it did it on a ratio, and it was really hard. It sounded good in a presentation. It was not as good when they were trying to implement it here. This is actually pulling our people with the degree and the job off of our system, so it'll be a lot more accurate. It's a little bit more time intensive to go through and sort of, because there are still some questions that we have to get answered by the state to be able to do it accurately. But the good news is we've had a couple months. Like, I wish, Ms. Hayes, that they had put it in this year's budget so that we could get it done by the end of this year's budget, because it's going to create some problems, like with people that move or leave and go somewhere else. We have to keep their account open so that we can pay them next year money to people that work this year. But that's always grant work, state work, federal work. Okay. All right, school supplies. All right, so last year we did not put into the budget. School supplies were something. Let me give you a little bit of an origin story to try to address some of the things. All right, for decades, you got your school supply list from your child's teacher when you went on registration night. One of the things that we found is some schools had almost nothing for the kids, and some schools had school lists that were $200 or $300. You know, so about 10 years ago, I believe, we put together a district school supply list. And what we tried to do is norm that across the schools so that kids consistently had the same thing, but that it didn't break parents' banks at the start of school when you had to buy clothes and school supplies and things like that. And we tried to really drill down and target, like, what are actual school supplies? Because, you know, there's a couple things, like, we give schools instructional money to buy things to be used in the classroom. We took away fees to take that money off of parents about 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. There are some fees in high school, but not in elementary or middle school. So when ESSER came around, one of the things that we discovered that we could use to spend that money was to cover the cost of school supplies. And we did that because, you know, if you remember, it's hard to even imagine, it seems like it was 100 years ago. If you remember during COVID, we weren't sure what was going to happen to people's jobs. And we weren't sure that parents would be able to get out to even buy supplies because of everybody staying 6 feet away from each other, you know, following certain paths, certain number of people in the store and things like that. We thought it would be easier and safer for us just to buy the school supplies, have them shipped to the schools, and that worked out really well, right? But that money is gone, and that was the money that we used for that. It was about $1.6 million. Now, over time, we got better at managing the school supply list, because basically by the end what happened is principals went on a list that Ms. York procured with our school supply vendor, and principals talked to their teachers, and they picked off that list what they wanted, because what we didn't want was, you know, 600 boxes of something that nobody used, because we were blanket sending it everywhere. So we wanted schools to have the flexibility to be able to get what they needed. What we did not want was to replicate what had happened before, which is you need a chartreuse folder, a cyan folder, you know, and the 64-box crayon, which you should always get the 64-box crayons with the sharpener. That's actually should be a necessity. But you know, we wanted that to be normed across the district. So as we go back, there's a couple ways, you know, just from what I've heard from feedback, I wish we could still do it. There's just not $1.6 million in the budget unless we dip into our reserve, which I would strongly discourage from happening, right? Like, that is money that we are counting on for next year as we try to make budget next year. So how do we address, like, the biggest concern that I've heard from individual board members and from the community is, what do we do for kids that don't have school supplies? All right, we have always had kids that didn't have the right school supplies on the first day of school. We have a pretty decent inventory of school supplies that we can send out to schools to address students in need. That's with Ms. York. Schools can contact her. They will get the stuff that they need out to the school. The Family Resource Center will continue to provide supplies for students as needed. The United Way is bringing back the Stuff the Bus campaign that they did for a long time. And look, we are not going to let kids go without. We are not going to shift that cost onto the back of teachers. What we have to have is communication at the school level with us to let us know what the needs are, and we will make sure that that happens. What I would suggest is that, my recommendation would be is that we monitor and that we provide additional funding to the Family Resource Center or to schools if it's needed. But we can monitor their school instructional account. We can look at what's at the Family Resource Center. We can look at the Family Resource Center's budget, and then we can move things around as needed. It's really more of an operational concern at this point. But I can tell you that it's going to be hard to do $1.6 million in. It's not impossible. We can do anything that you want to do, but my recommendation would be not to do that. Because if we try to do it tonight, I don't think if we try to buy $1.6 million, we used to buy $1.6 million worth of school supplies in February, March, not May, June. So, if we approve it to add it to this budget, we can't access those dollars until July 1 at the earliest. That's if our budget passes on first run at the commission. I think that will happen. I've had wonderful conversations. It says the first. Had wonderful conversations with Commissioner Schoaf, with Commissioner Hyde. I feel good about our budget passing. It needs to balance, and we need to get it over there so that they have time to look and we can do the presentation, we get it passed. But we wouldn't be able to purchase school supplies if you put the money in until after July 1. So that's my recommendation.
Mr. King?
Yeah, could we do a budget amendment for this current school year's budget to go ahead and allocate that money, and that way it's not dependent on the county commission voting on the budget. It's not. So we're allocating money, budgeted money for this year, and just go ahead and do a budget amendment and do it, and provide those. That way they can go ahead and order those supplies now, so we're not waiting on this process of going through the whole process.
We would have to move money, which would require, one, we don't have $1.6 million sitting around waiting to be used. The budget that you have tonight is forecasted by historic numbers of what we don't spend versus the reserves that we currently have and the revenues that we have. I would strongly discourage doing that in the sense that ESSER isn't final. We lost $1 million off ESSER in the last month. Now that should be the last big hit that we take, but it always goes up or down some over the May and June runs of TISA. That final number will not be what we showed tonight, because June run of TISA, and we'll get it late in June, will be the final run of the revenue that we're getting from the state. My recommendation would be, not because I don't know where there's 1.6 million sitting around in this year's budget, that would not require us going to the commission to move money out of a major category, which would require school board approval, commission approval. You're looking at July anyway.
So just a thought on that. We end every year with a pretty significant surplus. Last year it was 17 million. The year before that it was 7 million. The year before that it was 31 million. This is surplus dollars that just rolled into our reserves. Is there any way we can find out if there's a surplus coming, that we could tap into for those school supplies, and do a budget amendment? For example, if it looks like we're going to have some money left over from this year, and the last time any money decreased out of our reserve fund was in 2012, 2013. Every year there's a surplus, and I've got all that information. Is there any way we can find out what this year's projected surplus is going to be? That way we can go ahead and allocate that money for school supplies and do a budget amendment and get that going as soon as possible.
You can't budget money on the hope that it's going to be surplus. That money sits in a line. If you're going to move it, it would require us to do a budget amendment to move money, which would require the school board to approve it, and then it would require going through the June commission cycle, and then you would be into it. The year would run out, and that money would all roll back into reserve. But you can't budget money out of a future surplus, because we don't know that surplus until all the books are closed, and that money is currently tied to a budget line. It's not like we don't have money just floating out there. That's not. I mean, yes, we have money that won't be spent, but we can't move that without following all the different state and local laws about spending. But yeah, I mean, yes, theoretically, yes, you can offer a budget amendment. My recommendation would be not to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was a question I had asked during the week, but we won't actually know that surplus until September. Is that correct? Like, we're actually, because of the way the law requires to run our budget, we don't know our budget until 2 months after that month has closed.
We don't close our books won't be closed and our reserve won't be final until we close.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna, without any further questions, I'm gonna try to speed up and go through. If I could ask, if we could hold questions till the end, because we're at 7:56 right now. All right, budget updates. Again, I shared this last week, so I won't read it again. As we worked through what we're budgeting for and what we think our strategic goals are, we engage students in academic exploration and creative problem solving. We coach students to overcome obstacles and achieve success. We support students to be healthy and resilient. We prepare students for their first and future careers. We empower parents as vital partners in teaching and supporting our students. We connect students to serve others and give back to our local community. We anchor, we innovate, we invest. All right, so I just wanted to hit some things that I don't think I think in the rush of going through everything last week, I missed some of this, and I just want to highlight this for you. Technology for students. We will put 5 new iPads in each kindergarten through 2nd grade classroom next year. That's 1,800 iPads. They have those now. These are the replacements. We will sell those back. The good thing about iPads is that they have value. Chromebooks do not. I don't know what we'll get back. A year ago, they were getting about $105 to $107 per iPad. So as we roll those off, we will get money back that will help us towards future technology purchases. All right, 1,500 MacBook Airs. This is technology for teachers and technology for leaders. 200 iPads. So let me explain the way that when Dr. Phillips came, Sumner County Schools invested $25,000 a year at the district level in technology. I bought a $286 e-machine out of the English account at White House High School. That was the computer I had. It lasted a couple months, and then I used my laptop, my personal laptop. We put into effect the district device fund. Mr. Brown manages that, and then the Brown Trust money goes towards student technology. So what happened is we pushed out the district device fund. So a school of 800 would usually get about $19,000 to $20,000. And back in those days, what I bought were Chromebook carts. What happened during COVID is we realized that we were still very much a school system that had a lot of hardwired computers that were almost worthless when people couldn't come to school. Since that time, we utilized our ESSER money to shift to become mobile. Mobile for teachers, because what we were also doing is buying a lot of really expensive proprietary things like smart boards, right, that cost a significant amount of money. They were proprietary, they were gimmicky, they didn't work all that great. But if you get an iPad in a teacher's hand, you replace about 4 different devices. So our teachers have iPads. What we're looking to do now is to take this off of the school instructional funds, because what happens is at a certain point a computer can't be safely supported by Mr. Brown's team because it no longer is supported by Apple or Google or Dell or whoever else it might be. And so we have to rotate that computer out at that point, right? Because we get bombarded constantly with phishing schemes, with hackers, everything else. We have to keep our technology fleet up to date. What happens is that burden is too high on schools, and because we bought so much of this technology using ESSER dollars, this bill is coming due, and it's more than a school can fund with their instructional funds. We didn't just give schools instructional funds to buy technology. We want them buying dissection kits, science kits, novel sets, different things like that that directly benefit kids in their learning. So what we're trying to put into place to lift that off the schools, it's also easier to run and manage from the center now than it used to be. So Chris and his team are able to manage that for the schools. It's a huge burden to lift off principals. We are shifting primarily to MacBook Airs. It does not mean that we're shifting exclusively. MacBook Airs are light, they're solid state, they're fast, they connect to everything that we use, and they have a really nice sell-back value in 3 or 4 years whenever we try to rotate back. PCs do not. We will continue to get PCs for classes that require that. Engineering, architecture, accounting, all the really exciting professions. That's for you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Lancaster. We'll make sure y'all still have PCs. But if you're teaching English, you can do fine with a MacBook Air. It's a lot easier to manage. So that's what we're doing for teachers. Our leaders use their iPads oftentimes more than they use a laptop, because they can take it when they're doing evaluations, when they're in classrooms. If something happens, they can jump on there and they can easily see the cameras. They can take pictures when they're in the classroom doing an evaluation or something like that. They can video. It's pretty much one-stop shopping for them, and it makes them, I would say most of our principals love their iPad to have with them. I mentioned this early. We're replacing the $10,000 that the state stopped funding for our schools. It's a lot of work to get STEM or STEM certified, and we want to continue to support that for our schools. New teacher support. Again, we're going to have a 3-day new teacher learning intensive. It's the first time we've ever done anything like that. Our teachers will learn what we do in the classroom, how we manage student behavior, how to use their technology, and they will receive their new technology on day 1 with all the logins, everything set up, ready to go. And they'll be coached through that. It's hard to be a new teacher, right? You don't want to ask dumb questions, but you end up like walking around for a day or a week or a month not knowing what's available unless somebody coaches and helps you through it. So we want to provide that along with ongoing support. HR research will tell you now that if you don't have 9 points of contact with a new employee in the first 9 to 12 weeks, you stand a good chance of losing that employee. So we want to make sure that we have really positive relationships with the new teachers that we're bringing in. All right, this was also from last time. Just wanted to highlight our student safety investments, right? Another almost 1.2 million for window film and doorknobs to continue that project. $100,000 for AEDs. You know, we've seen with the recent incident at the Y, at Moss Wright Park with the young lady from Good Pasture, having easy and instant access to an AED is really vital for protecting the safety of our community. All right, I want to go a little bit deeper. Last week, we got to tour the Carolyn Smith Innovation Center, and I wanted to highlight some of the things. The MOU is on the agenda tonight to vote on, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that we see. And then if you have any questions, if you'll hold them to the end, because I want to run through everything, and then we certainly can come back to this, because I know it's not, actually I would say let's just hold the questions for when we get to the MOU, because I think that makes a lot more sense. All right, so one, a breathtakingly beautiful building. We have driven around for the better part of 2 years trying to figure out how to tie Sumner Ready and Sumner Gets Back together, and to be able to take the walls off the high school to provide the absolute best for all kids. The number one thing I've heard over the last couple of years is, I would love for my kid to be able to take aviation. I would love for my child to be able to take advantage of that health science class at another school. I would love for my child to be able to do this. And it's always tied, because our CTE classes that are absolutely amazing are geared and engineered towards individual schools, because that's the blueprint that's been around since 1906. The world that we inhabit in 2025 is not the same. Kids need to work together collaboratively. They need to work in groups. There are a whole different set of professional skills that they need to learn. This building gives us a state-of-the-art facility that allows us to begin to rethink how we do high school. Here are some of the things that we think we can put into a next generation approach to high school. Understand that we are not trying to pull kids out of their high school to start a new school. What the Carolyn Smith Innovation Center does is it provides increased opportunities for students at every school, while also giving students the opportunity to work together in creative ways that have never existed for high school students before. But here are some of the programs that we're thinking we can do very quickly. Some of these will be in January next year, some will be the following year. We plan on spending the fall doing a whole lot, as we've talked about with playgrounds, doing a whole lot of community meetings, bringing in experts from around Tennessee and around the country to really get this right and build it out in a way so that we can create a model that will serve students for the next generation. Here are some things, though, that we think we can do really quickly. Aviation Academy, we already have that. We can offer it in January. We're going to start it in January. Kai Perry, that's the aviation teacher at Liberty Creek, was at the Army, had their big aviation conference last week at Opryland Hotel. He took some students down there. They got to see the next generation fixed wing Army plane, which was really cool. But the other thing they did is he talked to some people there that are vendors, and they're offering to build out aviation mechanics headsets so that kids can virtually learn how to do aviation mechanics. Starting salary for an aviation mechanic is between $45 and $50, and there's a dire need for them. So that's something that we can do along with our aviation program, and we can certainly house this here. It won't just be virtual. We can get the equipment. We already have the equipment in our schools. It's really just a mindset about how to work on aviation equipment. Entrepreneurship, allied health. Entrepreneurship, I think, is a major thing that we can focus on. And I want us to think about entrepreneurship, yes, in kids building things that they can take to market and learning that process and getting support, taking a class, but also going way beyond the class to actually build the project and to be mentored and supported by entrepreneurs in our community. I also want to see us connect entrepreneurship to work in nonprofits and charities and churches and other groups that have needs. The same skill set will apply. And just like we see these efforts multiply, we build the beds for Sleep in Heavenly Peace. The Westmoreland High School construction kids then go back and they go out and raise their own money to build picnic tables for families that are victims of the floods in East Tennessee. That will take off. This will give us a space to bring kids together, to replicate that faster, and also to coordinate projects. Like I think there's a whole, I didn't put this on there, there's a whole project management certification to give kids the opportunity to learn how to run these projects and coordinate with our CTE classes across the county. Medical logistics, allied health, that's like radiology techs, different, medical sonography, different things like that. Medical logistics is a field where there are big jobs available all the time and not a lot of people going into it because kids don't know what they are. We already have Lean Six Sigma in all of our schools. We can go to the higher belt levels and then tie that in with the entrepreneurship and some of the other programs. Cybersecurity, construction management, concrete management, audiovisual recording industries. That can include game design, app development, all kinds of different things, in addition to podcasting, traditional music approaches, different things like that. App development's on there, teaching as a profession. There's a lot of amazing stuff that we can do, and this is just scratching the surface. This is only, this fell into our laps about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So this is a lot of rapid fire thinking. I can tell you, if we go to the next slide, our deepest thanks to the Smith family to honor their mother and wife, Carolyn Smith. Our deepest thanks go to them because they are taking a space and leasing it to us at 25% of the market value. We can expand the possibilities for the future generations of Sumner County students at a price that we couldn't build a building like this, right? But we're gonna basically, we're not being given the building, but it's $6 a square foot plus taxes and insurance. You're talking a little over $360,000 a year to have a 60,000 square foot space that basically has a blank blueprint that we can do almost anything with to enrich our students. We've got it, the term is 3 10-year lease terms, and I can tell you that we haven't even really talked to outside companies and corporations and things like that, and we already have 650,000. I can't share the names yet because we don't have everything signed yet. I will share that with you, I promise. Ms. Brittany, back to your point about grants. It's exciting and we will celebrate it. It's just a little soon. The actual number, I believe, is around 950,000, but I don't like to count chickens until they hatch. I think there's way more of that out there because I can tell you that the corporate world and the nonprofit world and other major industries, the venture capital world. There are a lot of different worlds that we're getting into and learning rapidly. They are very interested in what we're doing. And I don't believe there's really anything like this in the country right now. There are entrepreneur centers, there are innovation hubs, but most, I don't see anything like this with the flexibility that we have to address future needs. All right, Gallatin Early Learning Center, we talked about that earlier tonight for the playground, but understand this is really innovative to put all of our pre-K students in Gallatin in one building. It lifts a lot of burden off our individual schools, but it also lets us centralize. The most important thing is it lets us centralize our support to give those pre-K students the fastest and best start to school. What I love is Vena Stewart's principal, Dr. Shelton, who is an amazing guy, was heartbroken that they were losing their pre-K because he said, we love integrating them into our kindergartens. And so we made him a deal, since they're about 250 yards, that they could still kind of come get the Vena Stewart future pre-K kids and include them in stuff that they're doing at Vena. Now, eventually he may take some of the others back with him, but we'll cross that bridge on another day. But it really highlights the collaborative work of our principals and what I think is going to be a pretty amazing journey and a model for other parts of the county. Wherever we can do this, we should do it because it expands access and it makes it, by centralizing it, we get a better product and it's more supportive of the kids. All right, I'm going to run real quickly because we did this. These were our current revenue projections. Nothing has changed in a week. This is our revenue increase. All right, I wanted to run through and clear up some things about structure from last time. So as we were trying to build out our budget and think about next year strategically, these are the areas that we were thinking about. Coaching all students, building on academic success, building student resilience, and developing professional skills. You have all heard, and I have heard, one of the really probably the only complaint that I ever hear about Sumner County schools is especially elementary students with extreme behaviors. And how do we get at that? That's not a Sumner County phenomenon, that's a nationwide phenomenon. And no one right now has a good answer. But not having a good answer is not a good answer, right? It requires us to be innovative like we are in everything and to dig in and to find out. I think the number one driving factor behind student behavior, especially in elementary, one is exposure to school. That comes with time, right? Learning expectations. I can't remember if I shared this last week. I can remember when I was coaching mock trial at Emory. I told the kids before the first meet to wear church clothes. And they showed up in stuff that you would not wear to church where I grew up. And I found out that church clothes means something radically different based on where you live and what your experiences are. You have to be more specific. So a lot of times, like for instance, if you grow up in a home with a lot of people in it and a teacher tells them to use their inside voice might be like this because there's 15 people. Whereas if you grow up in other houses, an inside voice is very much like this. But that's learning and expectation. That only comes with time. There is a piece that I think that drives a lot of the extreme behavior, and that's resilience, right? Kids haven't had to struggle, and as they have to learn how to struggle and overcome adversity and challenges, oftentimes for the first time in the classroom, frustration builds and that leads to behavior. And so we have to begin to develop a way to address that. We also want to take all four of these areas, developing professional skills, right? Another thing that I think helps behavior and discipline is the simple process of learning how to shake hands, how to look someone in the eye. If you got a chance last week to go to Ellis and watch The Amazing Shake, it was pretty amazing. They hit kids with a lot of different scenarios and they had to adapt and adjust to it. But there's something to be said for learning those skills that help you navigate when you're uncomfortable. If you're in a school, the most entertaining day to watch is the first day of school, or in high school, the first day in the spring when you change classes. Because every child walks out of the cafeteria with their tray and their eyes immediately get big as they try to find who they're going to sit with, right? It's uncomfortable to not know where you're going to sit, right? And practicing those professional skills also helps build resilience. So this ties into the 6 things that we talked about earlier, and we have some opportunities. One, we've already shared the Carolyn Smith Innovation Center. What an amazing opportunity, but it's going to require support for us to get it right. Now, I believe, if not this year, in the future, I think we can cover most of those positions with outside money that's going to come into us through partnerships with different industries, corporations, companies, nonprofits. Changing the narrative from intervention to coaching. I believe this with all my heart. It's a moral point for me that we stop using the language of intervention for kids. We start saying every child needs coaching, whether to be coached up to a standard or to be coached to exceed a standard. And if we change that language, then we change the way kids feel about themselves. We change the way that they see the world. We change the way that they see school. No one enjoys coming to school to be told that you're in the slow group or whatever else it's called. That drives and kills a love for learning in kids. Aligning current interventions with Tier 1 instruction. Proactively addressing student behavior challenges to build resilience and professional skills, or to use we have a great Character Strong curriculum that we already have in place that helps kids identify and build these skills. That's an area for coaching. It's also an area for us to figure out what happens when a kid doesn't meet our expectations. What do we do? In times past, we've put that in the lap of our special ed team and said, y'all need to figure this out. That's not fair to them. We should only be putting kids into special education for behavior when we have exhausted what we can do by every other area, right? We owe that to those children as they learn and grow. Investing in Teach Sumner and developing and supporting new teachers. So this is where, in order to do that, I had to realign my cabinet and my team to be able to better meet these needs. And so I want to run through that real quickly, and I'll tell you, the total new cost of that at the end. All right? So, chiefs. 4 chiefs: Chief Academic Officer, Chief of Staff, Chief Talent Officer, Special Projects, Chief and Financial Strategy Officer. All right? Chief Academic Officer is not, it's a shift. Ms. Dam was a chief in our current structure. That chief position is shifting to Ms. Skinner with additional responsibilities, right? Ms. Dam carries a tremendous load in what she supervises and leads. Ms. Daniel is a tremendous leader, right? She does amazing, outstanding work. You can't, in her first year as a cabinet level leader, give her all the stuff that Ms. Dam has had for a few years. Just like when I transitioned to Director of Schools, Ms. Skinner needed 2 years to learn the Department of Instruction before she took on additional responsibilities. So we want to provide the support to Ms. Daniel, so we shift that chief from Ms. Dam to Ms. Skinner. Chief of Staff, Chief Talent Officer are just additional compensation for additional work. For Mr. Johnson, honestly, Mr. Johnson has done the Chief of Staff role for quite a while. He's just never been called that, right? There's not anyone, let me say this, there's not anyone that makes our school system as successful as it is as Jeremy does. And he hates me bragging on him, so this is kind of fun. I'll do it real quickly because I know we got a lot to talk about. But he communicates with every principal almost every week. He communicates with y'all almost constantly. He, at times, is a calming influence on me. I am passionate. I own that. I own that I'm passionate. So Mr. Johnson does a tremendous job in so many areas managing and supporting our school system. We have a lot of individual projects like rolling time and attendance out to individual schools so that we can start to look at things like additional payrolls. Hear me when I say we are not talking about additional payrolls right now. Payroll department, if you are listening at home, we are not talking about additional payrolls anytime soon, okay? I want to be clear about that. We have a lot of leadership pathways to build. We promoted 14 people out of instructional coaching into assistant principal and other leadership positions already. I will celebrate the fact that we have almost every position filled now. Years past, we didn't start filling these positions until next week. We already have those positions filled, which gives schools more time to hire teachers as those positions open up. That's vital for them. Chief Financial Strategy Officer, all we did is add more responsibility for Ms. Brown. Carolyn Smith Innovation Center, the building exists because Amanda Brown identified it, negotiated it, talked about it, and worked tirelessly to get it done while building the budget. And that's what she brings to the table, along with a whole lot of other things. Our current directors are becoming executive directors because they supervise more than one thing. Okay? They have multiple things under them that warrant the executive director title. I'll go to superintendent. It cleans up all of our nomenclature. I can't tell you how many times I've been told over the last week, thank you for being called a superintendent. It makes everything so much clearer. Every time I go anywhere, I say director of schools, and they say, what is that? I say superintendent. All right, directors. Oh, I'll go real quickly. All of these are existing. These were people that already carried director title. They're just carrying a new title. All right, directors. We are backfilling. Chase Moore will become the director of CTE and STEM. Chase has run the #1 CTE and STEM program in the state of Tennessee for a number of years with 3 people. And one of those people also shifted over halftime to do Teach Sumner. Chase has a tremendous team, but we have to invest in that team and build it out so we can keep doing the great work, especially as we bring the Carolyn Smith Center on, or Innovation Center on. Exceptional Education is Miss Daniel. Okay, that is a new position. Instructional support will focus on behavior. And instruction, I misstated this last time. Exceptional Education is a new position because we're sliding the chief title over to Ms. Damhill to Ms. Skinner. Exceptional Education is a new position to go in to work with our pupil services special education department. All right, so supervisors, we're adding CTE STEM. I believe we'll be able to fund half of this position with outside money that I believe will come in the next month. Okay, middle school, it was a current grant. This is Mr. Cripps. He will move from working with our 2 ATSI schools, Rucker Stewart and Portland East. He's done a tremendous job working with those 2 schools, and he has a model now to carry into work with middle school. So he will bring that knowledge in addition to building Ellis out as one of the top middle schools in the state. Teach Sumner, there are probably one position that we're funding out of GP, and the others being funded by money that we get from the Gallatin Industrial Board. We're hoping, we've applied for another grant with the Gallatin Industrial Board. There's a possibility that we'll get the other position funded too. We're always trying to find creative ways to pay for staffing, to pay for our programs, to pay for our equipment, so that we don't pull that out of our GP funds. All right, the total cost right now for all of these positions is new funding of about $600,000. And I believe that will drop by another $75,000 to $100,000 before our budget goes into effect, because I believe we can get outside funding to help cover some of those positions. And if we get more, if that $950,000 jumps to $2 million, which I believe it could, but I don't have those chickens are still eggs. They haven't hatched yet. I don't want to count that money until we get it. So that's $600,000 to align our central office to support our principals, teachers, and students on doing this work. I think it's vital for our next steps.
Can you repeat that one more time? You said 600,000, and for chief executive directors, directors, and supervisors?
Yes, sir. Okay. I wanted to show you just a little bit of compensation as I run through this real quick.
Dr. Langford, before we go much further, we're pushing 8:30. Can we take a quick 8-minute recess?
And motion to extend.
And motion before we do a motion to extend till 10?
Sure.
All right. Do I have a motion to extend till 10?
Yes, motion to
Mr.
extend.
Second. Mr. King, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, let's take a quick 7-minute recess. Thanks. All right, I'm going to call us back to order.
All right. I'll go very fast. I can finish in about 5 minutes, I think. But I do want you to see some of this because I wanted to explain, you know, as I mentioned, the previous slide, the total's about just above $607,000. I wanted to share some of the things that we're doing. So in 2020, 2021, our principals made generally about $30,000 less than a principal in Williamson County and some of the surrounding counties. Right, like I started as a principal, I think I shared last time, I started at, I think 78,000. No, I'm sorry, I started at 68,000, I ended at 82,000. So that would have been 2018. That number had climbed up by 2020, 2021. As you can see where we've been able to move our principals. That is important. And if you look, unfortunately, Williamson and other counties have moved theirs up even higher. So this is not something that we get to take our foot off the pedal, because our principals deserve every penny that they deserve, that they get, because they work tirelessly every day, and they deserve every penny of it. These are the averages for principals. I would argue that my executive directors also work really hard and run departments. So I think we should continue to try to pay principals as much as we can. But I also think it's also to go from 2020, 2021, when a director was making $95,000, to go this year to $125,000. That puts them on par, you know, right around where high school principals are. I think that that's fair. I would like for all of them to be much higher, and we'll continue to work towards that, just like we're doing with all compensation. But I wanted to share that with you to give a little perspective. 39.9% increase in teacher pay since 2019. We're at $50,500, up from $36,100 7 years ago. Here is the new, we won't stop here. This is the new pay scale. So this will go out for teachers. There's not a change to the classified pay scale because we're doing 2 steps. We're not changing the actual scale. All right, so Sumner County teacher pay, I went through this last time. I'll put this in the slide deck for people to look at. This is based on years' experience. I wanted to show, a lot of times the question we get is it just a $2,700 raise for new teachers? No, it goes all the way through the pay scale. And the same thing if you have a master's degree, if you have a specialist degree, if you have a doctorate degree. Okay? And it's so good I put it in there twice. This is, I showed this last time. This is, we've seen from the work that we did on classified pay that the number of applicants is going up substantially or significantly. And last year we moved up $4 an hour because we were not market competitive. We had to make a dramatic shift to our pay scale to be able to hire, recruit, get good people. We had good people already, we had great people already in our school. We need to be able to pay them what they were worth, but also be able to go out and hire new people. Since we made that big jump last year, what we want to do this year is give everybody that's with us a 2-step raise, which is about 4%. And if you look at this, I'll run through this quickly. The 2-year increase, last year when Mr. Ott presented, we said we wanted to try to get to $18 an hour. We went from, on the bottom line pay, or the bottom range pay. So we went from $12 to $16 last year plus a step. If you add these 2 steps in this year, you're at a 2-year increase of about $4.98. So that would put you right at that $17 mark. Okay, and there's bus assistant, head custodian. So just our increased compensation is about $13.8 million this year. If you add 2025 and 2026 together, over a 2-year run, we've increased our staff compensation by $42.7 million. That's the work of this school board. That's the work of Ms. Brown and her team. That's the work of everybody working together, and it's something to be celebrated. It's historic. Also with that is increased pay and benefits for our teachers and staff. 0 increase is what we will propose when we vote on this in August or September for insurance premiums. So we're not giving a raise and then taking some of it back on insurance premiums for health care. Increased mental health support and women's health. We have pushed our vendor to really try to think of ways to address women's health. Whether that's fertility, whether that's menopause, all the different things. We have a significant, about 80% of our employees are female, and yet almost no one provides additional support for women in the workforce. that's a huge benefit for us. It's also a way for us to continue to make sure that we're taking care of our people. Possible holiday for for health insurance. We are looking at that. We need to get another month or two run before we can see if we can do 1 month or 2. That was a huge thing for families in the last year that worked for us, was to get that 2-month holiday. And then again, just to celebrate what we did last year, maternity and paternity leave with 108, including, if you look to the right, our new principal at Bethpage Elementary, Christy Manning. Last week, she had as a foster child for a couple months this baby, Grace Ann. And last week, she formally got to adopt Grace Ann. So she was able to take maternity leave as she welcomed Grace Ann into her home. So I thought that was worth celebrating too. And I'm done. Open to any questions. Or we can take them as we debate the budget.
All right, we are on to something when the screen updates. I think, there we go. I think it's the memorandum of understanding. So, all right, we're on to new business. Item number 1 is discussion and or action regarding a memorandum of understanding with Smith Travel.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Mr. Lancaster, second by Ms. Hayes. Any questions, comments?
I just have one. Are we taking over the maintenance of the building if the AC unit goes out? We're paying for it? Or replacement of an AC unit? Do we buy it or do they?
Yeah, we'll have to, Mr. Lacy, this is just a memorandum of understanding. We have, their attorneys and our attorney are working together to hammer out the lease. So in June, we should have that for you. So I'll get an answer for that question for them.
No questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion and or action regarding the teacher bonus resolution is required by the 2025 Education Freedom Act. Motion to approve.
Which one are?
The current, I believe the resolution that we reviewed during our study session is that included on here?
I'm showing the second one is the general purpose.
All right. Well, this is the resolution as it appears on board docs right now. So that's what the motion to approve will be, or the motion will be to consider, and then any amendments to that.
That's number 8. Right?
I need a motion to approve first. Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. Got a second? Got a second, Ms. Brennan? All right. Discussion?
So what? I think refresh. Some people this is number 8.
Is there an added language that we should be seeing? No? Okay.
So we made a motion to approve the one that's on board doc.
Yes.
I'll
Now we're in
second.
discussion. Yeah. Now we're in discussion and any amendments. Mr. King?
Oh.
Sorry. Were you doing? All right. Mr. King? Any comments? All right. So yes, Mr. Johnson.
So just to clarify the motion, what you're voting on is the version that originally appeared in board docs. Mr. King emailed everybody some language that he wanted to propose as an amendment. If that's an amendment he would like to propose, he should do that now. Otherwise, y'all can vote on it as it is. But I just want to make sure everybody understands what we're voting on.
It was just an idea, and I'm not going to make an amendment, so.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Hold up. Oh, Mr. Evans opposed. Anybody else opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is discussion or action regarding the general purpose budget for FY 25-26. Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Mr. Lacy, second by Ms. Brennan. All right, discussion. Mr. King.
Yeah, I'm going to hand these down. Everybody take one. This is just some information on these playgrounds. I think there's enough for Ms. Brown, Dr. Langford, and maybe Jeremy. So just so while y'all are handing those out, I spent some time this week doing some research. I talked to 2 companies. One we've already done business with, Miracle of Kentucky and Tennessee. as y'all remember, that we approved they're doing the work for the E.B. Wilson playground. And if you look on the, I have a copy of that quote that we voted on. And one thing I want to point out on there is if you look down where it says turf, it's 4,428 square feet, and that includes the rock base and I believe all the grading and installation. And that was the cost on that turf was $79,704. And so that comes out just under 20, it's about 17 something a square foot. And I had an opportunity to speak with Tammy Phillips, the owner, and she said that's probably a going pretty standard rate, about $20 a square foot for turf. And I also spoke with a company called Recreation Concepts. And if you look through here, if you go to, well, let me stick with Miracle for a second. Go to the second page. And you'll see that this is one of their pieces of equipment. It's called the Miracle Inclusive Whirl, part number M305. It's at 15,000. And then below that is the Miracle 10 Spin, part number M304 at 4,460. These are two pieces that are highly popular. Parents love them, the kids love them, and I've gotten feedback from several parents that have students in wheelchairs or children in wheelchairs and mobility issues, and they say these are awesome. But they're not only for students in wheelchairs, kids without disabilities that are not that have that, they love it too, and it's a great. They love these pieces of equipment. They're a lot of fun. And they just really get a lot of enjoyment out of them. So that's Miracle. And if you go back to the next page, there's just some other examples of their products and their equipment. You can see the 10 Spin there. I don't have prices for these, but when I was going through looking at the prices, they're kind of like that. 4,000 here, 15,000 there, 10,000 here, in that ballpark. So if you're looking at 2 to 3 pieces of equipment, probably maybe $20,000 to $30,000 for that. And then the next company I spoke to was Recreation Concepts, and they're the ones. They were involved with Mary's Magical out in Hendersonville. They helped build that facility, and I just asked them to send me some budget ideas for. I told them what I was thinking. We have playgrounds that need upgrades. For inclusive students, and what can you send us that might have just a variety of things, and you can look through these and you can look at the budget numbers, and these are for pretty large areas and quite a few pieces of equipment, and but just notice the budget numbers on there, and this is for the surfacing and the equipment. And yes, the surfacing does have the highest cost. PIP, or pour in place, is a type of surface that's a soft surface, and that tends to run a little higher, maybe $30 to $38 a square foot, maybe a little cheaper. But that also, there's many options with that. There's colors and all kinds of things with that. So, but these budget numbers, the first example is $259,000, and then $133,000, and then the next page, a couple other examples. Here's one that's $111,000, and then one for $259,000, and so on and so forth. Nothing really goes over $300. And these are just budget ideas. Okay, budget ideas. So I spoke to Mary McCauley's mother, Rachel McCauley. She is the mother of Mary, for whom Mary's Magical Playground was originally built for and named after. And one of the things she told me was part of the reason she wanted to build Mary's Magical Playground was because Mary did not have a playground at her own school, and that was over 10 years ago. And one of the things she said was was that, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it was, God smiles when all children can play together. And we need to have, in my opinion, and just listening to a lot of our speakers tonight, we can create a space for all children to play together. And one of the people one of the consultants I was talking to from one of these companies we were talking to, she said that, students that are in wheelchairs, the hardest thing for them is just being left out. And just creating a way for them to get over to where their friends are is huge. Yes, we can get a couple of pieces of really great equipment that they can play on, but they'll have a lot of fun with that. And some of those, if you look in the packet, are really cool. They look like a lot of fun. I would love to ride on some of those, But they just want to be with their friends. And right now, it's hard if they can't get over there to their friends. It's very difficult. And and so I just think that parents have been waiting 10 years, long time for this. We could talk about the legal side of things. I mentioned the law last time. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973, it says that no qualified handicapped person shall, because a recipient's facilities are inaccessible to or unusable by handicapped persons, and this is shall be denied the benefits of, be excluded from participation in, or otherwise be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity in which this part applies. And so we, really the only thing in our budget that has a legal kind of question is this. So I don't think we can wait for another budget cycle. I don't think we can wait to have, yes, we should have a committee. I agree with that. But I think we can act now. I think we need to act now. I think we need to act tonight and take action and make the first step. Make the first step in this process. Not do a study, not get a report. I love what Mr. Lacey said. It's like that's where things go to die. Okay, if we don't take action tonight, my feeling is that that this is never going to happen. We cannot allow this to become another Gallatin track. Okay, we just can't allow that. And so I think we need to be taking action tonight to do something about this. When I look at these renderings, these budget renderings, and I spoke to these consultants, and I asked them to give me 3 tiers of possibilities: one at $300,000, one at $150,000, and one at $50,000. $300,000 will basically give us any surface we want for a pretty large area, and it would cover a substantial area with quite a few pieces of equipment. $50,000, we could probably do a small area and maybe one piece of equipment. It's very minimal. But that area in between $150,000 could get us a substantial surface area plus maybe 3 to 5 pieces. For our elementary schools, I would say we would maybe need partials. Maybe some of them could, partial surfacing, maybe not the entire area, plus 2 to 3 pieces of equipment, and that would fall within the $150,000 range. Recreation Concepts was a little higher for surface, plus 2 to 3 pieces of equipment, and their range was between $150,000 and $250,000. So I think if we conservatively estimate a budget of $200,000 to $250,000 per school in inclusive upgrades and allocate, and I believe we can allocate $1.5 million to this project, that would potentially cover 5 to 7 schools. And by the way, they said that if we spend $100,000, we're making a dent. That's a big dent. And so 1.5 million would potentially cover 5 to 7 schools. You can't do it all at once, so I project this could be something we tackle over a 3 to 5 year period. To me, that's a realistic and conservative estimate. And honestly, maybe we could do a few other, maybe more than 5 to 7 schools, depending on the needs. So I think that is a reasonable request. We're not asking to do all of it at once, and I think we've the best approach is a phased, multi-phase approach, in my opinion. So my amendment tonight is to allocate 1.5 million towards inclusive playgrounds.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. So we're now in discussion of the amendment.
Could I ask a question? Like if we say we did this, the board approved it with the existing playgrounds that we have, would they have to be removed, or could you have those and the new ADA compliant?
I mean, it would depend on, we have I don't know what 5 Mr. King is planning on, so I mean, we'd have to look at the sites, because I think that, with as we've learned with tracks and football stadiums and everything, it's not just what the actual cost of the materials is prepping the site and everything and building the handicap accessible. So some of that would depend on which 5 schools. And then, if there's land, you would probably keep the old playground and continue to use it, and build a new would be probably what I would recommend. But, I think that you have to pick 5 schools to start.
Mr. Evans?
So it's not really an amendment to his. I've kind of got a separate amendment that's on the same topic. So how, in this case, we had to vote on this one and then come to mine. So for that case, I'll wait. Yeah. But as far as discussion goes, we'll wait for that.
So can I add something? Oh,
yeah.
She might have. I think she was ahead of me. Go ahead.
No, Mr. King, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so, and I want to just make clear, we're just talking about allocating some money. When you do a budget, you're just making a plan for the money, okay? We're going to assign a job to every dollar. We're going to put that on paper. We're going to allocate this money. It doesn't mean we're doing it. It doesn't mean that we have costs. It doesn't mean we have the specifics, but what we're deciding here is we're going to set aside this money as a good faith start towards the process. All the other decisions, all that other stuff can be ironed out. What type of surface, I'm just giving you guys some numbers to let you know where my thinking is, where I came up with this figure. But 1.5, I think, is a great place to start. And I believe we have the money to do it. We have 143 million in reserves. 1.5 million does not destroy that world. That is a very small amount. And so again, we're just allocating money towards it. Now, if they get together and we can put a committee together that includes parents, teachers, our SPED department, that would be great. We can do that. We can come back and do that maybe next month. And then they would sit down and talk about all the specifics. They may come to us and say, oh, we got together and it can't be done. Well, we allocated that money and it's there, but if it can't be done, then that money can be allocated for something else. But it's just moving money for a specific purpose. That's all that we're doing. It doesn't mean we have to actually come up with what equipment's being bought, what surface we're going to choose, and so on. I think this is a good faith way to get started.
Good, Maggie.
Ms. Brittany?
Let me first say I completely support that we need to move our playgrounds in a new direction. just like with our athletic facilities, we depended for a long time on PTOs and parents, and we need to take on facilities completely within the school board. That said, when we look at the athletic facilities, we pass that capital dollar, those capital dollars off cycle through meetings. We did so over a few months, not in one meeting with one proposal. We followed a bidding process to understand what our total bids were. We had people come out and look at the sites. We had companies with experience actually look at our schools and what we needed. And I would feel like we were not doing our students justice, and we were not doing right by them if we don't take the same diligent approach. And I'm not saying slow, and I'm not saying die. I'm saying a diligent approach. We need to look at the process on how we define the first 5 to 7 schools. We need to understand if equipment like this, which I think looks amazing and is a fantastic start, is the right equipment for our student population and our potential student population that's coming up behind them. I would love to understand what our pre-K program looks like for our students today, because I think it's a good indication of what we should be planning for over the next few years. Capital dollars can be allocated to this at any time as we need it through a vote. We can reallocate funds from the reserves with votes through that same process that we used with the athletic facilities. This is a critical topic, but we also need to understand what grants are available, what we're eligible for, so that we can incorporate that information in our planning. I, for one, think that we need a lot more information before we can make a decision. And if the reserved funds are there the way that we think they are, they will still be there in June, and they will still be there in July as we develop a partnership with our parents and our students and our PTs and OTs who are on site, and find exactly what our students need, not just what a company is trying to sell us in a moment, but really plan for how we succeed at this project long term. My background is in project and program management, and I would not take on a project that had a lack of discovery. We can fail fast in a lot of different places, but this is not an area that I think we need to fail fast. So I won't be voting for this amendment, but I would like to make a commitment tonight that we will continue down this path to do this the right way.
Mr. Lacy?
If we waited till June to try to do funding out of the reserves, would we have to go to the county commission and ask for that money then?
We won't actually, like, we don't have $145 million in reserve. That's just a number out of the sky. There's not $145 million there. What we do have in reserve, we won't know until about September. But if we pulled money, just like we had to do with the athletic facilities, we pulled money and shifted it out of reserve into a capital line or any line. If you remember, we pulled some into capital and we had pulled some into operational to do the rental bleachers. That does require commission approval. But what you could do is, like, if our reserves come back, if we were going to go ask the commission to move money out of reserves for capital, I'd only want to do it once. I'd want to figure out what we thought we needed for the year and then do it then. I'm concerned, is like Mr. Schoaf and I have worked over the last couple of years, couple budgets to manage our budget utilizing our reserves so that we don't have to force a tax increase so we can stay revenue neutral. That requires identifying new revenue sources. They've really done a tremendous job on the county side of doing that. He thinks he's going to be able to continue to get us $6, $7, $8 million a year. The legislature has also promised to try to keep doing that, which helps us, but it requires a lot of management, because if you think about it, we've been revenue neutral since 2019 on the tax rate, inflation has been crazy since then. So each dollar that we're getting now is less than it was, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So it requires a lot of management to get there. So we won't have those reserve numbers until around September, because we have to close out our books, that to be audited, we have to see exactly what we spent, and that money rolls in, and will look like, I hope, like, if we have $145 million in there, it's because somebody won the lottery and wrote us a big check. If we got it, hey, we're going to spend some money if we got $145 million in reserve. But I think, Mr. Lacy, to your question, I think that we need to look and see if we were going to go that route. But what I was saying is, we feel comfortable about our reserve. We have money in capital right now. The school board can ear note capital dollars. Like, if you notice, we did not name any specific capital items, Ms. Brown, right? Like, we just have a capital line, because we were concerned to list a whole bunch of capital projects, because prices are all over the place right now. And so we didn't want to put stuff in there and then realize, like, we can't do that, but we could do this, but we've put in the notes. So really, the capital budget this year will be managed very much by the school board as we have opportunities to look at. So we could come back if there's a $1.5 million capital purchase to make a playground. Like, I think the playground equipment looks great. I think this is a lot of great stuff to look at. I would kind of like to see what the installation looks like at the Gallatin Early Learning Center, because we've had about a 40-year relationship on all of our other playground equipment. It's been a wonderful relationship. This is the first time I think this is the first time we've used it for this surface. I would kind of like to see how that plays out before we jump. I want to go fast too. I'm not really known for going slow on stuff, but also want to make sure that we get it right.
How much money do we have in reserves at the moment? That do y'all say we have in reserve?
Ms. Brown, do you have that number?
I don't have the number in front of me. Trevor, do you remember the audited reserve balance? So the number that Mr. King may be quoting, the reason I don't know that number off the top of my head is because that's not a usable number for our budgeting purposes. That includes a ton of different things that are not accessible or allowable to be spent, including school nutrition. I believe it even included our medical reserve fund, and so that number is not available in any way, shape, or form to be budgeted. The also number is, if that number was even in the audited financials, once again, that number also was last year. So last year, if that number was what the ending balance was, we then appropriated a large majority, if you'll look in the budget, of that reserve balance to balance last year's budget to pay for raises. So as we finish up this year and pay for all the expenditures that we budgeted, including the raises, that reserve balance will greatly decrease. Also, we used a large portion of our reserve balance to fund capital projects. Also, you can see that in the budget. So that reserve balance will not be $143 million. And even if it was $143 million, that is not in any way, shape, or form available to be budgeted. We will not know, like Mr. Langford said, what that reserve balance will close out to until September. We have in the budget, you can see on page 7, the unbudgeted designated fund balance currently is approximately $4 million. Now, once again, like we always discuss, that is a conservative estimate. We hope that our fund balance will come in higher. It should come in higher because every penny won't be spent. And that's forecasting certain lines very closely. Obviously, I can't project every line of the budget.
Yeah.
But as that closes, that's our current estimated after this of the available fund balance.
What concerns me is, in the past, a lot of the money that went into the undesignated fund or went into the reserves at the end were dollars where we had allocated salary positions and then we never filled those positions. But as you've seen, like as we've talked about, we have way fewer openings than we used to. We're not running 45, 50 openings because we've increased pay and we have more people working for us. So I would like to always run about 93% of what we budget to what we spend. We want to be as conservative and squeeze it. I've already told them that we're going to squeeze every penny this year that we can, because we need to try to stay around that 93%, because that's how we get money to roll into reserves.
but that's going to be harder to hold than it was in the past because we're filling a whole lot more positions.
So, how, you said we're gonna probably use 93% of this budget this year?
I'll be really happy if we do that, but it's getting tighter today because typically that money came out of personnel, but we're hiring a lot more. We don't have the openings, and when we do have openings, they're not 150 days, they're like 3 weeks or something, 4 weeks or something like that. And I think I would remind everybody that the way that the reserves work, if we do have, the reserves come in and we want to use that money, the process is very much like moving money from savings to checking. To move money from our savings into our checking, it requires school board and commission approval. I think, Mr. Lacy, that's what you were sharing earlier.
I got one more question. I guess I put y'all on the hard spot. How much can we safely do by your estimations? Let's set some money aside tonight. Don't wait, because trying to get more money from the county commission for the football stadiums was a nightmare. If we can do it now, it's going to be so much easier. What can we put aside? Let's do it today, because we don't have to make a decision on what we're buying it, when we're buying it, but we have that money. Well, we will have that money there when we have done the research, when we have went through purchasing, then we can approve it at the proper
All we
time.
could conceivably move out tonight would be whatever that number is, Brown referenced,
$4,348,377 is what our undesignated reserve balance.
I would strongly recommend that you don't touch that money because, it is there in reserve, but that's gonna, if we lose $500,000 or something like that between now and the end of the fiscal year, that's gonna come out of that. If we hit anything like a roof blows off or something like that, we are really thin on our reserves. I agree with you, Mr. Lacy. I don't cherish the fact, I do think that the commission, it would be way easier to work. We've come a long way in our relationship with the commission. I don't think we hit the same problems. I think that if we had a reasonable proposal, they would listen to us and consider it, and I think we could get it done. I would feel more comfortable looking at that as part of our overall capital budget, but I would like for us to be able to study that and put some thought, because we have money in our capital projects budget. I think what I would recommend we do is, instead of just dog-earing something tonight, is like, let's study it, and then we won't commit to capital projects until we feel more confident about that. We got that money to use on that there. So we don't have to go to the commission. We're allocating our capital projects, but we're doing that once we have some actual, understanding of what we're looking at.
And I apologize, that number slightly changed on this budget because there was a slight adjustment, so it's $4,352,127.
Mr. Evans?
Okay, so I've been waiting for this like all day. Add an amendment to his amendment for the amount. I asked that we actually take $100,000 out of our current budget, so this year, to do a 10-week study, aggressively look at this over the next 10 weeks, with the conditions that Dr. Langford puts together a committee that includes 1 board member, 1 PE teacher, 1 county maintenance staff member, 2 community members, a local parks director, and a physical therapist is at our schools. And we use that $100,000, up to $100,000. I'm not saying it's going to cost that, but we set aside that for this study. And over these next 10 weeks, which would be basically the summer when the schools are not fully utilized, for this group to come back with the actual parks, with the parks department, we got a parks master plan. We need a playground master plan that's presented to us in September. And then we actually can make a prioritization and actually address, actually take care of this, what I think is the correct way. I heard the comment about this, you guys have been waiting 10 years, I'm asking for 10 weeks. What I'm asking for here is this. I don't know, I'm glad you reached out to Kimley Horn and Miracle. Those are two, you didn't talk to Kimley Horn, but you talked to some good companies, that's great, but he shouldn't have been talking to those companies. It should have been our professional staff that took care of that and got proper, I don't know if that's going to break any rules with doing an RFP, because now they have information that can make them, gives them information that other companies don't have. So I think that we need to, like I said, my amendment is to set aside up to no more than $100,000 tonight from our current budget out of this year to aggressively have a plan that is presented to us in September as a playground master plan.
Can I get some clarification just from a legal budget standpoint, what we're talking about? Can we, in talking about next year's budget, make amendments to pull funds from this year's budget, or does that have to be a separate line item on, I mean?
Not for this year.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't.
Hang on, I don't think you could, let's go to Mr. Presnell on this. My recommendation would be, I don't think during a budget discussion for next year's budget, we should talk about pulling something out of this year's budget. I think you would wind up in the same place anyway. I don't know what the 100,000 would be spent for. If we're talking about a consulting firm, we would have to follow our bid, our purchasing process, which would require us to go out, either do an RFP or come back with a recommendation to the board next month, and we would be into next year's budget by the time we got it approved. I would also be concerned about the fact that what I proposed was that we collect a group of, we include parents, we can move the timeline up on that. I think that's fine. I would be a little hesitant to approve something that is pretty prescriptive on who can be on that committee. I would say, personally, it's my job to execute the work of the school board. It's your job to give me directions on what you want to do. So I'm perfectly fine doing a faster process, but I would like I think that I probably deserve the flexibility to be able to put that team together. I think I have a pretty good track record of doing that with athletic facilities. I'd be happy to do that, but I don't want to be overly prescriptive on who has to be on that. I'm always a little concerned about school board members being a part of the committee that does the planning, because you are ultimately going to be the ones that vote on whether to approve it. So that would be my only, I think school board members can come be a part of the conversation and everything like that, but to be a part of the group that actually puts it together, I think it puts you in a vulnerable position. I think it puts the school board and the school system in a vulnerable position as well. We've kind of moved away from that for about 12 or 13 years. Those are just my thoughts. Mr. Presnell can weigh in, certainly.
To your question, Mr. Daniel, if Mr. Evans is talking about pulling money from this year's budget, current budget, that'd be a separate motion that would need to be made. Because currently what's on the table is Mr. King's motion to amend the budget to allocate $1.5 million from next year's budget, as I understand it.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Lancaster?
So, got a couple of questions. One, I texted Dr. Mike for this today, but just want to see kind of, none of our budgeted revenues currently, part of the voucher bill was we're supposed to be getting at some point capital money, right, from the state. None of that we didn't budget any dollars because we, don't know how much that is, and do we know any idea when we might get that?
No. So basically what Mr. Lancaster and I are talking about today is in the school, or in the educational scholarship bill, they're taking 80% of the revenue from sports betting and putting it into K-12 schools. There's a formula that I don't think has been developed yet that identifies growth and exceptional performance as the way that those dollars will be allocated to school districts. So we don't know what that is yet, but it is coming.
Is it? Do you know? My understanding of the bill, we were supposed to be getting something in the next fiscal year.
Yes, it'll be in next fiscal year. I'm sorry. Yeah. But a lot of times what they'll do is they'll get through the legislative session, get through the end of the year, and those funding formula will roll out in for instance, we get the outcomes-based funding for test scores and things like that usually in a run in December, January. I can kind of see that money coming in maybe sooner because it's not tied to testing performance, it's tied to gambling performance. Or poor performance, but
I would think that money would come quicker, but I can try to push. I asked our legislators today, and they didn't have a timeline, but I can keep pushing to try to find that out.
My revenue estimates do not include any of those funds.
So I mean, I'm trying to read where we are up here, because I think everybody up here wants to do something. I think we don't know exactly what we want to do, or no, take it back. I think we all know what we want to do, don't know how we're going to do it. But at the same time, I agree with Mr. King, and also what Dr. Langford said earlier. You believe something, you got to put something to it. So I don't know that I don't think we've got support for 1.5 up here. But I think we could take what's currently sitting in our capital, which I think is $4 million, allocate something to this, just like specifically say, hey, we're going to that $4 million, we're going to use X for it, and also, so anyway, here's my amendment. Y'all can either say I'm an idiot or not.
Before we get to your amendment, are you talking about allocating current dollars?
No. I'm talking about the proposed. When I say allocate, I mean we're going, actually label some of the current capital that we've got in there.
So we're labeling capital that's in the budget that we're voting on.
In the budget we're voting on, yes.
This would be set aside in capital projects for.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're changing the budget. I'm just saying we're specifically calling out of the $4 million
on page 32. On the $4 million on page 32, you're asking to allocate a portion of the $4 million for that. Is that correct?
That would be my amendment. My amendment would be that I don't think we've got 1.5 there. I would say 250,000 of this year's, but with also the caveat that any money that comes in to this, because we've got money that we know is going to come in. We don't know how much it is, but we utilize that to bridge the gap towards Mr. King's.
Can I make a recommendation?
And if there's a way to clear that up any better, that's fine. But that's kind of where I'm at.
I may have a solution that ties a couple of things together. Regardless of how we put money together, whether it's Mr. King's, Mr. Evans, or what Mr. Lancaster proposed, there's going to have to be study. We're going to have to follow purchasing. We're probably not going to get a playground committee report of any kind based on whatever model we use until I would say September. Over that time, I think we can identify one or two revenue sources that would probably generate a substantial amount of revenue for us, and that's either our outcomes funding that will come in December, January, or the funding that we're talking about through the sports betting part through the school vouchers. We don't know that tonight, but I think to pick up from Mr. Evans, we can start aggressively planning and try to look for a process to go, I would say even up to 1.5 million from Mr. King, to try to tie those two together, but use the funding source that Mr. Lancaster is doing. Because worst case scenario, we can hold money back in our capital projects if we get nothing in outcomes or we get nothing in sports betting. That won't happen. We will get something, but then we don't have to drain our capital fund because we will have other capital projects like window film and doorknobs and some other athletic facilities and stuff like that we're going to want to look at. But I think we can go ahead and plan for, I can move up the summit. That's not a problem. I wanted to do it because I was kind of thinking logically about speaking to the Special Needs Collaborative in August and then rolling that in September. But I can certainly do that in June or July. That's not a problem. We could speed that up, which seems to hit, Mr. Evans, Mr. King, I hear y'all talking about wanting to do it faster. Mr. Lancaster, Ms. Brennick talking about the revenue stream. Like, why don't we get the plan and then we can work internally to try to identify revenue streams and then just see what's possible? Because some of these will probably be multi-year approaches anyway, because we're going to have to look at, there's a hill, there's, different things that we're going to hit, and that will help us also identify the right schools. Just a suggestion.
Mr. Lancaster?
My only issue is feel like the people that are here and the people have been, you know, I think, I'm not saying that's not a, I'm not saying I don't want to do a committee, a study, because I think that's definitely part of any of it. I just want to have something saying, hey, we're at least going to do this. We're going to, and I'm not saying that that's, we've got money that we're saying, hey, we're going to use. If everything goes to heck, we're going to spend $250,000 doing something.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, and I don't think $250,000 allocated out of our capital will kill us. I mean, it may, but you know, I just want to say, hey, we're going to spend some money right now with what we got on paper here towards this project.
I think what you could do is just, if you don't want to do it, I mean, you can empower us to do the work, to get the legwork together, to make recommendations for purchasing. I think what your motion might be would be to say, you know, to develop a plan to, you know, devote a certain amount of money to improve our playgrounds by such and such date, you know, like bring it to the July board meeting. If you, I mean, we could bring you something at the June board meeting, but I don't think we can bring it to the June board meeting and include parents and families and everything that the speakers and what I suggested earlier. That's going to take a little bit of time. We did that a little too fast on the athletic facilities, and then we ended up doing a couple $100,000 in revisions to get Hendersonville Beach correct. So I'd rather, I want to go fast, but I also want to have the time to get it right so that we're not doing a whole bunch of change orders that then, you know, that burn money out of the contingency and then take away from what we could do for other schools or other playgrounds.
I guess I just don't understand. My thing has nothing to do with June or July. I just say, I just want to make sure we put some money towards this. I mean, I think September's still fine, but we've got a year. There'll be opportunity to, I just don't want us to, you know, not do anything tonight, I guess is what I'm trying to do. Not as part of this budget, because I think the will is to do something, and I'm trying to compromise between, hey, 1.5 and nothing, or not nothing, but we're going to do a study. If that makes sense. But that's my amendment. So.
What was your amendment? Say that one more time.
Basically, just to use the current budget what we got. Use the current budget we've got for next year, the 25-26 vote we're voting on in the next 37 minutes. $250,000 and say, hey, this is going to be the first step towards the inclusive playgrounds, with the knowledge that we have additional capital money coming from the state at some point, and we're going to prioritize that there.
So do we need to deal with Mr. King's motion first? Because it sounds like this is a separate amendment to essentially override.
I'm just, you would second mine. He's changing it now. I'm just changing it now. I think that's what he said.
You can revoke mine then at that point, and say, so you can withdraw yours. I'll withdraw if you want to withdraw yours. So it's kind of dealer's choice at this point. Mr. King can
amend his if he wants to. You can also take them separately. You can also amend Mr. King's amendment, because we're talking about amending the money amount. So, because you're not substantially changing the motion other than the money amount.
Yeah, that was the intent. But I think
Which one are we doing? Which one are we talking about?
Well, that's my question. Is we've got your amendment that's 1.5. We've got his that's 250, which would change the amount. But I think the allocation of his was a little different than yours. If I'm
very good. I guess that is true.
That's
correct.
So
That's
you know,
correct.
if Mr. King wanted to support your amendment, then I think he would need to withdraw his amendment, and then we just go straight to yours.
I mean, technically, he can amend my amendment.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But, or we can talk about my amendment, vote it down, vote it, and if it passes, great, we're done. Or if it doesn't pass, we go to his amendment.
All right.
It's up to you, Mr.
So
You're
can
the
you
chairman,
read back,
can
can
do
you
it.
read
You
back
call it.
Mr. King's amendment?
Yes, sir. Mr. King, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Mr. King's amendment was to allocate $1.5 million towards the inclusive playgrounds.
You read it perfectly.
All right, and your amendment is to change that from 1.5 to 250.
Yeah, but using the current, yeah, exactly, with what we got in the budget for capital right now, which I guess is the same, what he's talking about, so. There you go.
I think it's up to you as the chairman.
Yeah, I'm just,
you know.
yeah, I'm just trying to get clarity on the right way to do this so that we, yes, Mr. Johnson.
One clarification from Ms. Brown, she would like for y'all to designate whether you'd rather take that out of reserve or capital on either of your amendments, Mr.
Mine's out
Lancaster.
of capital, mine is out of current capital.
Okay, Mr. King, yours is out of capital reserve.
I mean, mine is just to allocate the money. Okay? It can be out of reserves, or it can be wherever she might find it.
Yes,
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I can talk about the reserves if we want to have that conversation. I just want to allocate 1.5 million. So
It has to
All right,
come
so-
from, it has to come from somewhere.
then we. Let me just ask, where could that? Well, are we talking about my amendment now?
Well, we've got to figure out where it's going to come from so we can add it to the motion.
I know, but
first. So
what are we talking about? His amendment now?
let's just figure out where it's going to come from first, and then I'll come back to you. All right? So
Okay.
where do we need to designate it come from?
Yeah, let me take a
Hold on. Can I?
A point of order, can we call the question or get this over with?
Yeah,
We've
no,
got
well,
30
well,
minutes left for
well,
our whole
so-
budget.
Yeah, just a second. So if we're going to vote on the 1.5 or
right.
the 250, we've got to know where that's coming from.
That's fine. I'm just trying. I need to. There's more that I want to say to my amendment,
Okay.
and there's more discussion to be had.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let me figure out where we want to allocate the money from, and then I've got an
Well,
amendment.
I want to talk to that.
Okay,
So.
all right.
I do want to talk about reserves just for a moment. And just to clarify what Ms. Bryant said, with the athletics, we voted to allocate 15 million before anything else was done. That was the first thing. We're going to take money out of reserves. There wasn't any estimates. There wasn't any architectural plans. There was absolutely zero. And we voted to allocate 15 million. All of that other stuff came later, the planning and the architectural things, the estimates, all that. With regard to the reserves, okay, where I get the 143 million is from the comptroller's report. That's when the books closed last year. We had a $17 million surplus. That is in trend going back over 12 years. We end every year with a surplus. That fund keeps growing. It was 126 million before that. Before that, it was 119 million before that. We keep earmarking money in that fund, and it never gets spent. And if it's getting spent, then there's enough revenue to come in to not only pay it back, but also to pay to add to it. That thing just keeps growing. We're like funding a charter school here, people. When we say, oh, we're taking money away from education, that's what this fund is doing. It's taking money away from the schools and putting it in that slush fund. This money needs to be spent. Parents expect it to be spent. Taxpayers expect their money to be spent on teachers and students and education. This thing keeps growing. We need to spend this money, okay? It gets earmarked every year. Since 2012, 300 million.
Mr. King, that is fundamentally
Point of
untrue.
order. Point of order. I have the floor, Mr. Chairman. Since I think 2012 or something, we have budgeted 300 million in reserves and have not spent it. Okay, so what we do is we have our revenues, then we budget our expenditures extremely high, and we plug that deficit with reserves, and we end up not spending it. Okay, so the fact that we need all these reserves to have a budget and to do all this stuff, that is absolutely not true. We can get by with less expenditures being budgeted because they're extremely inflated. Now, this thing keeps growing. We need to spend this money. Now, we can have a conversation about the reserves and the philosophy of it and why we're adding to it, but we need to spend this money. I'm asking for 1.5 million now. Let me just point out one thing. You said we had what, 4.3 million like available and undesignated. So we were told that last year in July. We were told the fund balance was going to be 4.4 million. Then when the comptroller's report came out in February, it showed that we had 26 million. How do we lose track of $22 million? All right, we're said there's only 4 million available. Comptroller's report comes out. We were given this report in March at our March study session, and it says we had 26 million available all along. All right, I have a hard time believing that we are losing track of 22 million. That somehow that just magically appeared when this comptroller report came out. Something's not right with that. Now, we can get into that, but I'm telling you, something is not right about that. Okay, we're told 4 million. Comes back, comptroller says we have 27 million. You know, I have a hard time believing that our team loses track of 22 million. Now, we need to spend this money. 1.5 million, that's like nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. I'm asking for 1.5 million tonight to help some kids have some playgrounds. You guys can spend all your energy doing community studies and getting reports and doing all that stuff. I'm talking about moving some money, allocating some money for a budget for a budget purpose. Right? It's not that hard. 1.5 million is absolutely nothing. It's not going to break the budget like we're being told. And if anybody has a conscience, they will go with my amendment. Because I'm telling you, if we don't do something tonight, it's never going to happen. You don't score a touchdown until you get the ball on the field and you start making a play.
Point of order.
You got to start somewhere.
Repetitive.
What's the point of order?
We're getting repetitive.
We've got other people in the queue, so.
That's fine. But we need to spend this money. 1.5 million. I'm hoping will come through. I hope we got 6 votes.
All right, back to the question I asked earlier. Got a motion from Mr. Lancaster, an amendment.
Second. Or no, oh yeah, I was in second.
Got an amendment, and the question was what fund balance we wanted to allocate that from.
I would just say, I think from what Mr. King just said, what he was recommending is taking that out of undesignated fund balance.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend.
Okay, undesignated fund balance. All right.
Yes, we're good.
All right. So right now on the floor, we've got an amendment to the amendment to, Mr. Johnson, can you read out the amendment now? It's to allocate 250,000.
Mr. Lancaster's amendment, yes. Mr. Lancaster, correct me if I'm wrong. The motion is to amend the budget to allocate $250,000 towards inclusive playgrounds from capital.
Second.
Got a second? All right. All right, so again, it's an amendment to the amendment. We haven't voted on the amendment yet, so we're voting on the amendment to the amendment first, which would adjust Mr. King's request. So is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we are voting on the amendment.
Just to clarify, if his amendment does not pass, we're back to my amendment.
Correct.
That's right.
So a yes vote would be to adjust to 250,000. A no would be to leave it at 1.5. Correct. All right. Can
Just
we do
a
a
clarification, it's up to 250, correct? Is that what I heard?
I think you said 250. Yeah. All right. Can we do a voice vote? I'm sorry. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
Sorry. The 250,000, we're just saying we're gonna hang that out there for whatever we deem fit to.
Basically, it's right, currently it's in capital budgeted. I'm just saying of that 4 million, we're going to set aside and say, hey, 250 of this is going to this specific purpose.
And that purpose is to kind of look at.
No, the purpose is to
It's,
improve
we're
our.
gonna spend it, we just gotta figure out where the best, okay.
Have to go through the regular purchasing cycle.
Yeah. But it will be used for $250,000 worth of playground equipment,
So,
ground coverings. Yep. And in addition to that, though, we'll still have the working group to report back to us so that we can figure out what the real solution is.
That'll be like
Yep.
some money for them to get started.
Okay. All right.
so
Yes. Ms. Stewart.
down here.
Yes.
So who gets to choose which school goes first? I mean, we've got people here from many different schools. Well, that doesn't hardly seem fair when we're the ones fighting for the
I
money.
think the director will come back with a recommendation.
I'd make a recommendation.
Yeah, and I would anticipate that
So
recommendation.
we're gonna throw him to the wolves, right?
Well, I think the recommendation he's gonna come back with will probably be more than the 250,000. Because, you
No,
know,
even
I think,
we
you know,
can't.
the intention is not to.
You said, excuse me.
Yeah, the intention is not to max out at 250. I don't think that's the intention of Mr. Lancaster's.
No,
It's
I
to-
get
It's
that.
to move some money over now that's allocated for playground equipment or inclusive play areas for our special needs students and non-special needs students that could access that as well. And then we'll also have a report, and when that report comes back, it may be, hey, we think it's gonna cost 2.1 million to do all the elementary schools, and at that point, we just have to have another vote to.
Well, I was gonna say, even
reallocate
Mr.
those
King's
funds.
1.5 is not gonna cover, he said 5 schools.
I don't know
4
what
to
it's
5
gonna
schools is
cover.
what he
I
said.
think, yes, so I think right now, right now, we're gonna vote on
I just don't want all these
250,000
people
being
that hate me
allocated, and then there'll also be a study group and plan that will be presented back to us. Do you think we could have that plan by August?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, then, can we do a roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
Can
Ms.
we-
Hayes.
Yes, hold on.
Can we verify, this is for inclusive playground equipment
Yes.
only?
Yes.
Yes.
With that, Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker.
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. King.
No?
Mr. Hollis.
Yes.
Ms. Brennan.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
Mr. Daniels.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right,
motion
now we're
carries.
back on the amendment itself, which was to,
That amended my amendment.
yes.
So now it's back to the main motion.
Go back to the main motion of approving the
We amended the amendment.
We amended the
So do
amendment.
we need to vote on,
That's right, we
yeah,
actually
we have
need
to,
to vote
we have to
again
vote on the
that we
amendment.
want
We
that.
Yeah, you
just
gotta vote on
amended
the
your
motion.
amendment. So
Yeah.
now we've got the
We have to
amendment
vote
to the
again.
motion.
I
So-
don't,
Yeah,
okay.
so now we have to vote on, got to vote on the amendment, which we just voted to adjust. So basically, we're voting on the same thing.
I don't think
but-
that-
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
got to,
you
you've
do.
got to go back and vote through the process. So anyway, can we
Okay.
do a roll call vote again, Mr. Johnson?
And read the motion.
Yes, sir. So this is the motion as amended. The motion is to
Yes.
budget to allocate up to $250,000 towards inclusive playgrounds from capital in this budget, or 25-26 budget. And with that, Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Hollis,
Yes.
Ms. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Stewart,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Chairman Daniels.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, now we're back on the main motion, which is the actual budget.
Oh.
Do we have any, yes, Mr. Lacy?
I've got a few questions. This is tough questions. You know, teachers are getting what, a 6% raise, and I feel like this should have, what we did originally should have been the easiest thing. This should be the harder thing. The teachers are getting a 6% raise, a $2,700 raise, right? Starting teachers. Like I said, I think the director has done an awesome job, but I saw where he's getting a 12% raise, or that's in budgeted $25,000. Is that correct?
No, sir, I just, it is time to renegotiate my contract. Ms. Brown needed to put a number in there. That's not what I'm getting. That's up to y'all's vote. So it's whatever you determine. We just wanted to it's part of my contract, but we wanted to put a number in there so that we didn't have to go through the whole process you mentioned earlier, going to the commission.
Okay.
I certainly don't want to go to the commission to ask them to move money.
Well, I know that's a 12% increase, not saying that you don't deserve it, but
No,
I think our teachers deserve a 12% increase too, and if they're getting 6%, that's good enough for all of us. But I would like to, Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief, he won an election on cutting federal bloat and government regulations and all the wasteful spending. I haven't met any teachers that actually want more people at central office. Not that I don't like people from central office. I think y'all do a great job. But I think our teachers and our bus drivers that face the students are the absolute most important. And I don't think any of those folks want more people, more staff, another layer of management at central office. I think Dr. Langford said the total cost was $600,000 for all these new management positions. I make a motion that we cut those, and we cut the 3 athletic trainers. I mean, if it's so important for our federal government to save money, why can't we as Sumner County
cut our funds. If we're doing it now and we're doing it so excellent, I hear every Tuesday that we're in here that our school system is excellent. We're doing exceptionally. We're way above and beyond. Why can't we do our part to relieve the tax burden on our citizens? Like I said, that's what I would like to recommend. I'll make that motion that, like I said, we cancel the $600,000 for these new management positions and the 3 athletic trainers.
So I have a motion to remove the reorganization of staff, which increased the budget by $600,000, and also athletic trainers. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I'm good.
Okay, I've got a second.
Yeah, so I'll amend that to, can we pull up that slide again on the directors? I'm trying to think about, what is the new director positions? What are those? There's 3 of them, right? Or are those just being retitled?
So Director of Instruction already exists, Director of Exceptional Education. Chief that Ms. Damhill shifts to Ms. Skinner.
Okay.
With additional responsibilities, which is to put Director of Instruction, Director of Exceptional Education, which is special education, and elevating Supervisor of Career Technical Education to a director level position, and then creating a position Director of Instructional Support to work on behavior at the classroom and school level to support principals and teachers as we try to work through, how to integrate things like TCIS and PBIS that help behavior, but also how to deal with, how to work through some of the extreme behaviors we're seeing, especially in elementary school.
All right, so that was a lot. I just remember on the slide during the original presentation that it said that there were 3 new director positions that were not currently filled. Is that what those are at the top?
Yes, there are 3 new director positions.
Okay.
Instruction was in your current budget and carries on to next year. Instructional support is the elevation of a current supervisor to a director position. So it's about a $3,000 or $4,000 increase. You've got exceptional education that is a new position. And then you've got CTE STEM, which is the promotion of a current supervisor and backfilling the supervisor position. Because you're running CTE and STEM basically with 3 people, a project manager, a consulting teacher, and Chase Moore as supervisor of CTE and STEM.
I'm just going to make a motion that we keep everything as it is in terms of the director structure. If we want to change their titles, that's fine, but that's my amendment, to keep everything, the current directors, everything as is in the central office, and not add new layers of layers. Well, and here's the thing, my constituents have told me repeatedly, central office is getting too big, there's too much administrative bloat. The focus needs to be on the classroom. The money needs to be going to the classroom. I was thinking about that presentation we had about the cockpit and the plane. We're enlarging the cockpit, but we're not. The plane is staying the same size. I just think we keep everything the same. If you want to give them raises, by all means. I mean, they got big raises this past year. If you want to give them more raises, that's fine, but I don't want any additional positions. So I want a hiring freeze on all director positions at the central office. That's my amendment.
So we have an amendment to the amendment that is a hiring freeze for all director positions and cutting athletic directors.
No, that would be, mine does not cut the trainers. So that would be his amendment.
Well, so you're trying.
He's trying to amend mine.
So
yeah.
So your amendment would also remove the trainers.
No. So my amendment keeps the trainers. It's just keeping the current central office these upper level director positions as is.
Gotcha. All right. I don't don't see any other lights, so let's go ahead and vote on the amendment to the amendment, which is to freeze. Oh, yeah, do I have a second? All right, I don't have a second. All right.
Second for what?
For your, yeah,
Right, so my amendment would need a second.
yes.
I'll second.
I've got a second. All right. Any other any comments on, all right. So we now have on the floor amendment to freeze all director positions, which would amend your original amendment. All right. So,
Is this gonna kill my amendment if it fails?
no, we'd have to vote on your amendment.
He's the original amendment, so if he agrees to, then it does.
Well, that's right, yeah, if you second, then it's gonna override, yeah, it's good. Okay, he's not gonna second. All right, then do I have a second? All right, I do not have a second. We're back on the motion to, yes.
Like I said, our government, our president won an election overwhelmingly on reducing government waste. Surely us as a school board can cut expenses. That's all I'm asking, to show our people that live in our community that we're trying to cut costs, keep government small. And you're showing your teachers, hey, we respect you. We want our teachers, we want our money to go where the students are, in front of teachers.
Ms. Brennan?
So that is assuming that our structure has bloat. And if you look at a corporate structure for a company the size of this school system, we are running with significantly less staff across the board than you would see in a similarly sized company. The fact that they're only proposing 4 chiefs, a company I'm very familiar with has about 600 people and 6 chiefs. It is wild to me to think that this would be looked at as anything like bloat. I want to just point out that if we were to look at the local area here on Glassdoor.com, which is one of my favorite tools for hiring or pricing roles, a chief of staff with 15 plus years of experience would be looking for an average in the like $200,000 range, going up to about $267,000 for total comp. A chief financial officer with 15 plus years, and this is in the education field, specifically in the education field, would be looking at.
I'm gonna call a question. I'm not. We got 12
Okay,
minutes.
I'll be quick. So you'll be looking at close to 300,000. There's no bloat here, and our teachers have said that behavior is an issue. We need to feel more. So we need to feel more supported by central office on behavior. This does that. They have. We have heard time and time again from our community.
We got to call it quit. We got to vote. I mean, we have to vote on this. I'm not.
Can't call a question while I'm talking. You can put yourself in the order to go next. And then we also have to recognize that our community loves our CTE program, and we need to continue moving it forward. And this is the way we do that. There is no bloat here. There is no nothing to cut.
Call the question.
Well, let's not call the question. I don't see if anybody's in the queue, so we just go straight to the vote. So, Mr. Johnson, we are voting on the amendment? We're voting on the amendment to remove the increases, org chart structure, and athletic trainers. So if you'll do a roll call vote real quick, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes?
No.
Ms. Tucker?
No.
Mr. Lancaster? Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Hollis?
No.
Ms. Brennan?
No.
Ms. Stewart?
No.
Ms. Barnes?
No.
Mr.
Yes.
Lacy? Chairman Daniels?
No.
Right, motion
All right,
fails.
now we're back on the main motion for the budget itself. Any more amendments, or are we ready to, yes?
I do have one more. It's to appropriate $1 million out of the undesignated budget towards school supplies for our elementary schools. Last year was $1.6 million. I know that's not the exact same, but if we look at the 30 elementary schools we have, you take a percentage of that, it roughly comes out to about $1 million. So I'm looking to allocate $1 million out of our undesignated budget for next year towards school supplies to cover our elementary schools.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I do not have a second. All right, Mr. Lacy, do it. Mr. King.
I have an amendment. So current teacher pay is, starting pay is $50,500.
Yes.
My amendment is to raise teacher pay to $51,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we know how much that will increase the budget?
We can't get that to you right now. It's a lot of analysis.
It's 2.1 million. We're giving huge raises. We gave huge raises this year, over $1 million at central office. I know because I did the records request. Cabinet directors got really big raises. I mean, three to five times what teachers got this past year. Now going into next year, they're gonna get even more. I feel like we can do just $500. That's the least at least we can do that for our teachers. If we're giving all these huge raises at central office and to all these people, we can get teachers another $500. I believe it's going to be about $2 million additional cost.
All right,
And I'll tell you, and here's the other thing: if the director's position is going to get renegotiated, and yes, it's on page 21. The amount allocated for the director position is an additional $25,000. Now that doesn't mean he's going to get it, but that's 50 teachers that can have another $500 a year. So $51,000. Nashville is way ahead of us. We're following other districts. Why are we following districts with teacher pay? They're already ahead of us. They need to be following us. $500. Can we not give them another $500? That's all I'm asking.
All right,
That's my amendment. And here's the thing. I don't care.
I've got the amendment.
Go ahead.
All right, I've got an amendment. Do I have a second? I've got a second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any comments? All right, can we do a voice vote, Mr. Johnson? Roll call vote, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Quickly. This is their compensation. How much is this the total? Is that the total with all for the teacher raise potential? So it's just not $500 per number of teachers we have in this county. So we have to put in for their compensation?
Yes, we would have to.
So what's the total?
There's no way we can get you that number right now.
Can I ask? So the way I figured it was that comes.
The CPA,
okay, go ahead.
The accountant.
There's
Any way we can get a number?
I don't have that number to tell you how much that.
There's no way we could give you that accurately right now.
Okay.
All right. Roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Hayes.
No.
Ms. Tucker. Mr. Lancaster. Mr. Evans.
No.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Hollis.
No.
Ms. Brennan.
No.
Ms. Stewart.
No.
Ms. Barnes.
No.
Mr. Lacy.
No.
Chairman Daniels.
No.
Motion
All right.
fails.
Now we're back on the budget. All right, Mr. Johnson, can we do a roll call vote on the budget discussion or action regarding the general purpose budget for 25-26?
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker.
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster. Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. King.
No.
Mr. Hollis.
Yes.
Ms. Brennan.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
And Chairman Daniels.
Yes. All right, next item, discussion or action regarding the federal projects budget for 25-26.
Motion to group and approve items 4 through 8.
A second.
Second. All right.
We've already voted on that, right?
No, 4 through 8 on mine is
All right,
passing.
all in favor of grouping, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any discussion? All right. Then all in favor of approving 3 through 8, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I didn't vote, but my vote will be aye.
Okay, all right. Next item, discussion or action regarding policy 6411 wellness upon first reading.
Motion to approve and waive second reading on this. We're gonna have this one back.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion or action regarding release of retainage for White House Intermediate and Liberty Creek Middle. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Lancaster, second by Mr. Evans. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business, discussion or action regarding policy 3.402, special use of district vehicles upon second reading. Do you have a motion? Mr. Lancaster, second. Ms. Brennan, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Discussion or action regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Do you have a motion? Ms. Motion to, why don't we just vote?
Okay.
All right, motion. Do you have a second? All right, I have a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our motion carries. Discussion or action regarding amendments to the federal budget. Mr. Lancaster, second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Hayes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion of study session items. We'll get to that later. Comments from board. Sorry, we're out of time, guys. One thing I do want to share, we'll pass this out. Review of 2025 director evaluation. We'll pass these out real quick. We got a score of 88.2% for Dr. Langford, so feel free to review this, and then we can discuss it at a later date.
I
Feel
do have-
free to reach out with, yes.
I do have one question.
Yes.
So, if we wanted to make a change on teacher pay, we could come back with a budget amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That is correct. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We got 3 minutes. Anybody want to say anything?
I want to shout out my wife who finishes her 11th year of teaching, and she's 8 months pregnant tomorrow. So, go Liz.
Hey, congrats Gallatin High School and all the award winners at the art showcase. Go Wade. All right. Meeting. Oh, Ms. Brady.
I just want to say congratulations to all the graduates, the parents who got them there, the kindergartens, the parents who cried a lot, and every single one of us teachers, parents, students who survived the May Summer to remember.
All right. Motion. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.